Hello. Historic District.
This is historic, so you're upstairs in the meeting, okay?
I assume this is where we are.
Yeah, no, you are.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that meeting was like handled last minute.
Great. I borrowed your phone cable.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Am I in the wrong meeting?
Maybe.
It's
This is Historic District.
Yeah, where's the wrong meeting?
What?
upstairs.
Oh, it is? And the upstairs one?
Yeah, yeah.
They changed the location.
Yeah,
Me too, I'm
yeah.
So,
It's activated, so it's muted right now, so,
right.
yeah.
So you mean, have we dialed in?
Yes, it's dialed in, ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Morning.
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 Historic?
Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Todd Brink.
Oh, great.
Hi, Todd. I'm Russ.
Hi, Russ.
Yeah, good to see you. I'm a neighbor a couple of doors down.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, where are you?
Right opposite, Ron and Julie's next door. We're the one right next door to that, the long
Okay.
white fence. Yeah.
With the Beagle.
Yeah, with the beagle. Yeah. Hey, by the way, I loved your barn. It turned out fantastic.
Thanyou.
Yeah,
and
it's
we're
beautiful.
happy. We're really happy with it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
There's no.
Who built that for you?
You know Evan Sigfridson?
Yeah.
He did the one across the street here.
Yeah.
He does about 30 of them a year.
Yeah, I watched it go up, and it's just beautiful.
21 days.
Yeah, beautiful work. Yeah, fantastic. Soundview meeting or historic? We're historic here.
Soundview meeting is where?
Upstairs. Yeah. So I've been told.
Yeah, it came out. Really.
Yeah, no, it looks fantastic.
What's going on across the street from us? Putting the roof on, right?
They're putting a slate roof on, yeah. They came in yesterday, last meeting. And they're, it's a gorgeous property.
They're going all the way.
What?
Yeah, it's really
They've
gorgeous.
been, 2 years working?
Yeah. Apparently, they're wrapping it up right now.
There's
Here's
one.
your,
Supposed to be wrapping it up about now, so, I know.
excuse me.
Well,
Yeah.
the tree work they did was amazing.
It's amazing, yeah. You can see the river now.
Yeah.
Is this a historic district?
It is.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I missed last time. I embarrassingly showed up. I thought it was the first Tuesday. Next day, and I was upstairs where I think you guys
Used to meet, we did.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there waiting, and I was like,
Right.
We did used to meet up there, and then we changed here because of COVID.
I messed up and I came on.
Yeah, Pamela Hamilton, and apparently Pamela's moved in, across the street, so,
Okay.
but yeah, it's, Skip Broom is doing the work on the house, so,
Great.
yeah. Good morning, John.
How are you?
Good. Yeah.
What does it mean? Look.
No, I mean, I see what it means, but, yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I know what that
wait,
means.
I
but
see
mean,
what you, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Good morning, Martha. Hi.
We
may have a little to discuss.
You met our tenant yet?
No, I haven't.
He's
Yeah.
a really nice guy.
So you have your,
Realtor, you might know him, Sotheby's.
Yeah.
Roger Parkman. Yeah, 82 years old.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I know Roger Parkman. He's wonderful,
Oh,
Roger
good.
Parkman, yeah.
New neighbor there.
Yeah.
Have you dialed in?
Yes, we're dialed in. So we're muted right now.
Okay.
So to unmute, it's star 53.
And
What is the address? It's Sill Lane, 2 Sill Lane. It's 2 Sill Lane. 2, yeah.
this was very.
I know, I found that out late,
We
yeah.
need to give some
Be careful.
attention to that.
Somebody has done their effort in research already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there's sort of,
They kind of confirmed
there's
church roots.
sort of Corinthian,
Yeah.
more elaborate. I don't know. Carolyn. Former column.
No,
feel like-
that's our house.
Oh, this is under 2 Sill Lane, okay. That's your house. Well, you're not 2 Sill Lane.
No, we're 110
I know.
line.
There, okay, yeah.
Forgot to take a picture today.
Doric.
It's the house. Does it show it that clearly? Well, it doesn't look like that. It looks like they've changed it.
It does. I think they look like more elaborate columns.
Yeah.
This is a Doric.
Oh, no.
Is it the same?
It's that curlicue right
Yeah.
there.
It's
It may
Doric,
be the
isn't it?
same.
Doric.
This is our house.
Curlicue's ionic.
This is the clearer picture.
And that's, okay, let's put this in the right place then. Okay. Pen.
All right. Hello, Martha.
Hello.
Probably start.
Are we ready to start?
Just see if anybody's on the line. Star. There may not be anybody on. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're ready to start, and welcome to everyone. We do have a quorum today. Is there a motion to approve the June 6 minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Martha, communications.
The only communication we received was about the application for the Blizzard Point property to be on the National Register of Historic Places.
Okay. Well, why
that's
don't
on our
we
agenda.
save that?
It's on our agenda. Yeah.
And Deanie and I received notes relevant to the proposed zoning overlay district, or letters, and but we'll save that. I know people are coming for that at 10:30. Public open forum.
I had one,
Oh, I'm
Martha,
sorry.
I did have one note. We just got a note from the app Geo with the final map. Was sent to you and John and myself, so they're asking if we're ready to post it, so we should look at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take that up under number 4 on the agenda.
Okay.
You're the public so far. Do you have any open forum comments, or are you here just for your particular
Your own.
purposes?
Yeah.
Just individual purpose here.
Okay. Secretary's report.
She confirmed that she was coming.
Right. Okay.
So the Secretary's report, there are actually 17 active C of As. There's 17 projects ongoing in there's 2 Ferry Road, the church's new roof, the Ferry Road sidewalk project, which goes out to bid after Labor Day. 21 Line Street, Paul Sacrostano has a number of projects that he's doing, and he's also on the agenda today. 33 Line Street, that's the Wipers new windows. 38 Line Street, that's the little house that's been undergoing renovations for quite a while. Those are still continuing. 43 Line Street, the porch conversion.
Is that started?
I don't know if they started that. I know they haven't finished it. But.
I haven't noticed it started. But I, yeah.
48-1 Line Street, Spears Plumbing windows. I don't know if they've been finished yet, but
Peek out the window.
To see the windows.
52 Line Street, new doors for the town hall. 54 Line Street, the new generator with the propane tank. I think they might still be waiting for a generator. I'm not sure about that. 56 Line Street, their little by appointment only sign still has to go on their main sign, and they're still landscaping the new barn. 64 Line Street, they're putting in new windows. 70 Line Street, again, new windows. 71 Line Street, and Eric is here to talk about the stockade fence. 84 Line Street, the Lyon Academy College of Fine Arts signs. 97 Line Street, they have an open C of A for a garden agenda today. And they're also going to be talking about their proposed new fence.
Todd's here.
100 Lime Street, Roger Torrey Peterson Estuary Center. They're still doing things with their new sign. 106 Lime Street, that's Pamela Hamilton, the new balustrade roof, breezeway, lattice work, driveway paving.
The slight expansion to the driveway parking area is, I think, underway, if not finished.
And then 2 Phil Lane, the pillars on the front porch, and that's the biggest list you've ever had.
I know.
Ongoing, so.
Is someone on the phone? Hello?
Doug. Deb? Is she coming by phone? I didn't see the communication somehow.
Okay, I guess no one's on the phone. Maybe they're still trying to connect on their end. So for active C of A's, and then we have a few issues in addition to discuss. Do you want to talk about the signs?
I have so
issues?
many sign issues, yes.
Okay. Let me mention one is 2 Sill Lane, and it does appear that they have not filed anything, but it does appear that their columns have been finished, and to my eyeball they look the same as what we have on file, but we need at least a like-for-like form.
Yeah. I sent them both a like-for-like form and a certificate of appropriateness application.
Right.
We haven't gotten anything back.
But I think the next step is to send something along with copies of past communications by certified mail, so that with the return receipt, so we can be assured that they received it.
Good.
Because it's an out-of-state address. And maybe you could, Martha, if you're willing to draft something very briefly, just referring to the enclosed, and let
Sure.
Deanie and me look at it before it goes out. Okay. And signs?
So, here she is.
Hi, Deb.
I'm just commenting on,
I guess we're merging into the co-chair's report, perhaps.
yeah.
But do you have anything you want to say on FLAC program?
Last program, I expect to be able to work on that.
Okay. Gee, you haven't been as occupied? All right.
So I expect to definitely make some good progress.
Great. Are we at 9:20? We're a little bit, we're a little bit early, wow, on our agenda, but I think the issue of signs in part relates to potential active C of A's, potential C of A's, and we'll fill in a couple other issues when we get to 9:20.
So do you want me to
So,
do
yeah,
signs?
yeah.
Yeah. So there have been numerous remarks, stroke complaints on the proliferation of signs in the historic district, including one just this morning from some people have come upstairs to land use to complain about the ice cream shop and the fact that the benches on the sidewalk, and which is town property, and that the egress along there has been impeded, and additionally just complaints about the way it is maintained. That's one. There are two places along Lime Street where flagpoles have been nailed to trees, which, as we know, is not. One is at the ice cream shop, and the other one is at Nightingale's. So they have open signs that are nailed to trees, and that's not permitted by zoning. Then there is the Essex Bank flag, which has been flying at the corner of Lime Street and Halls Road. It appears to be signifying that they are supporters of the Lime Art Association, but it's been there for a while. And then the kindness signs, which have been up for I'm not sure how long, but I think many people are ready to sort of try and have some kind of limit to all of these, just continually adding on signs. So I don't know what we think we want to do about that. We don't have a CEO at the moment. So we could probably write something about the flags on the trees, because we know that that is not permitted. We've had a legal, the posters, what did you call them? Letter posters?
I know what you're referring to.
The bill post.
Bill posters.
Bill
And,
Yeah.
but the point is, I think, was that things nailed to trees
Yes.
are not
Yep.
Well,
permitted.
You have jurisdiction over signs even if the signs are not stuck in the ground directly.
So we could write about that. We could write to I think land use would appreciate it if we'd write about the benches in front of the ice cream shop in response to the complaints they've received. As for the whatever you call those flags, they're up and down, you know, at Essex Savings Bank and kindness signs, I don't know what, that's maybe a little bit, I mean.
Well, my understanding is that Elsbeth, I'm blanking on her last name, the head of the Lyme Art Association is going to be here later this morning, so we could raise the question.
Oh, good, okay.
Is it Lyme Youth Service Bureau that is sponsoring the kindness
I don't
signs?
know that. Does anyone know?
I thought it was the Youth Advisory Committee, which I believe is part of LYSB, like a little spin-off.
So, I mean, I'm happy to call Mary Seidner and ask her about that, unless you feel that we should write something more.
Did we discuss at some point a 30-day
Yeah.
for these stake in the ground, like political, painting or whatever services?
Well, technically, we have jurisdiction over all signs, temporary or not.
Okay.
Certain practicality concerns enter in, I
Sure, right, that's first and foremost, right?
But there is, I suppose, a case to be made for the historic district on matters such as kindness signs, regardless of how important the message is being limited in the historic district. I've seen them all over town.
Right, right. So we'll just stick to our...
I would
Stick to the
do
district.
that.
I mean,
Stick to the
it's just this, our mile and a half, you know, that
Right.
we're talking about.
I would think we should also look at that entire intersection,
Right.
at Halls Road and Lime Street.
Yeah.
I think it would, I noticed at the end there was a discussion of a walk at some point. I think that whole intersection and proliferation of a variety of signs there should be looked at.
Yeah, the stroll.
The stroll, right.
Would be a really good time to,
A couple of meetings
that
ago,
in.
I think we mentioned that we should each keep our eyes open and take pictures of, shall we say, attractive intersections in other historic towns. On a very quick look at the statutes governing interstate access and egress locations and the interstates generally, there is a provision that reserves local jurisdiction over signs. I think it's up to 900 feet each side of the interstate. So it may be possible to build a very convincing case that even the highway signs should be, shall we say, less helter-skelter. But it would, I think, be helpful to have some pictures from how other towns are proceeding.
yeah. So maybe we can do that before we have our walk or stroll.
And there's a combination of signs, both commercial, state,
Right.
highway, and non-commercial.
And
yeah.
very temporary signs.
And very temporary signs, right.
You know.
So it just seems like there's, and it's an important viewpoint for people coming in and
Very.
into the district, so I just think it should be looked at.
Someone getting off the interstate in that direction, it's their first
Impression. First impression to make.
of the old Lyme Historic District.
Right.
I also wanted to thank Russ for finding this,
Yes.
which is hugely helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Right.
become our handbook. And
Right, that was great.
so much of the information we've been seeking, sort of helter-skelter.
Other people, other organizations have dealt with it.
Right.
Cleveland,
Right.
Commissioned this study
Right.
on historic districts and how they treat different materials.
Alternate materials.
And it's too bad they didn't address mechanicals in here, but
Right.
everything else, I think this is so thank you, Russ.
Right.
And thank you, Deb, for the article on the flower wars in Nantucket Historic District.
I have share regarding split systems and the pipings and things.
Yeah.
So when we get to that, or even pass it around just to see how this is one pipe that goes a long way from one system, like 35 feet from the unit, but of just how it can be kind of camouflaged, if you will. You know, 2 units and pumps and things, so when
The other thing,
we get there.
just to finish on that, is that this and yours, kind of, I think it's a little bit of a pep talk for us.
Absolutely.
And you realize how many people care, you know,
Right.
in all kinds of different towns, in large towns, small towns. So anyway, make sure
I
worthwhile.
personally think it would be useful if you could call the Youth
Yeah, Mary
Services
Seidner. Yeah.
Bureau. Okay, well, we are now officially into the co-chair's report. I have only a couple of things. First, as we're thanking people, I want to thank Russ for coordinating this GIS song. I did look at because I was copied on the latest iteration. It does not seem to me to capture the original configuration of the south end of the district.
curve.
Yeah. And I don't know, is that possible to?
Did you see the one this morning?
Yeah, but that I didn't see. That's the one I'm referring to.
Okay. Well, why don't we? It captures a curve. I have it right here, but.
But the question is, does it capture the 1970 map?
The extent of the curve, it's hard to judge that. So that's the piece that
Has been.
yeah. See, not the red line, but
Is that piece? Oh, I see. I missed that.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
right.
So it does.
It captures is that the precise curve? It's hard to know. I mean,
Okay.
because as you know, the 1970 map was not a survey map.
Right.
So does that meet
Well,
your
yeah.
question?
Have you looked at the? Have you compared it?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I missed
Yeah.
that little carve out.
Right. And I think she's just showing the red line as reference,
exactly.
but we won't post the red line. We'll post the district overlay that you see there, the brown part.
And so next steps are what?
Well, the next step is she's asking, is it okay to put this on the GIS system? So if we approved the map clarifications at the last meeting.
Right.
In my opinion, AppGeo has taken that and integrated into their system accurately. So the next step would be to give them authorization to put it up. And then also, at the last meeting, we recommended to send letters to anybody that had like a wraparound lot, just to notify them of any of the clarifications.
Right. And will the map that is put up include those written summaries? Or?
I don't think it goes on the GIS map. I think
when we start adding postings, we can.
Exactly. Right. I think the GIS map is simply the overlay, because there's not really a place to add those notes.
Right.
And again, the GIS map is for reference purposes. The official map is the map that we approved at the last meeting, and we'll keep that on our file. So, yeah.
Do you think it would be useful to send out the letters at the same time, or before this is posted, or just get this up? Maybe that's something we should discuss. Yeah, I think it's good to get it up. The timing.
Most people notice.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we go ahead and get this up, and at the same time, we issue a letter with the clarification map attached to the properties, any property that has clarification impact.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Do we vote on this, or?
I don't think you need a vote.
Okay.
No, I think we did the relevant vote.
Last time,
Last
yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Russ. Another note is that Jeff Cooley has officially stepped down from the commission as of the end of what's now last year, as of June 30th. So we start this year with 4 regular members and 2 alternates, and I am hoping that I guess you've, Deb, had some conversation with Deanie, but are you willing to step up to be a regular?
Oh, sure.
Okay. That would be great. I think that step needs to be taken by you officially to go into the town clerk's office.
Okay.
And I think it would be appropriate for the commission to, if all are agreed, or if a majority is agreed, to send a note to the selectmen who have to approve placements on commissions, that the commission is supportive of this move.
Great.
Okay, Deanie and I will do that. And that brings us to the first, that wouldn't need a vote, would it? I don't think. No, we don't usually vote on just sending letters.
Recommendation to the Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen, and
Yeah.
they'll appoint.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And that brings us to item 5 on the agenda, which is 97 Lime Street. Teresa and Todd.
I'm here
Hello,
representing...
this is Teresa McShane on the phone. I'm calling in.
Okay, that's my partner. We're here representing 97 Lime.
Have a seat if
Have a seat if you like.
Okay. We just, we're in the process, are in the final phases of the barn, finishing it up and cleaning up and accessorizing and such. One of the things that we've been asked by neighbors is to put up some sort of fencing, shielding some of the vehicles from their view. I think the last meeting, there was some discussion of those comments that went out, the notice that went out and the comments that were received. At this point, we pulled the formal application for the fence after discussion with John. The 65-day
Right.
time frame was quickly approaching, and we would like to have a general meeting and probably repitch it, start with a new application. So we formally pulled the application at this point, and what we're hoping to do is have an informal discussion about fencing in general, and what is frowned upon, what is not frowned upon. I think we kind of jumped into this a little too quick.
Well, I think Todd, that's great, and it's certainly very appropriate to have an informal discussion before we get to the exact details of what you would like to do.
We
Well-
have some pictures here.
Yes, that was some of what we don't want to do is we don't want to make it into a compound. We wanted to just kind of break up the view of the front of the barn from the house a little bit, and maybe from Lime Street between Malloy's and our house. There's a long view there. It's right on a lot of the equipment. But we've cleaned up a lot of building supplies have all been now moved, and the view isn't looking too bad. The only thing that you see now is a wood pile, and you mostly see that from Parsons Farm. And you see some vehicles, a vehicle or two, it depends on when you're looking. And that's it.
So this is where you're proposing, have you seen these?
Yes.
You've seen these,
Yes.
kind of at the,
Between the garage and the barn, and there is now a new, Russ, you've probably seen it. The driveway goes back now to the barn, and then there's a new driveway extension going out to Parsons.
I was going to ask you about that. Would a driveway require a certificate of appropriateness as well? Would that be part of, if it's in the district?
Yes, unless it's just a replacement
It's a new,
or repair.
When we
But if
last
it's
fall,
a different material, it would.
Last fall, when we put the driveway in, we went to zoning. We had a slight wetlands issue to deal with. We had to go to the town and get a curb cut permit, which we did, and we put in the paved apron on Parsons Farm. The town came out and approved it. There was no talk at all last fall about having to go to historic. We did put in there is an asphalt apron, probably 8 feet into the property, and then it's gravel as requested by the Historic Commission, and a semi-impervious surface. But I was not aware that we needed to go, at least all the research.
I'm concerned. Yeah, I'm concerned about that, and that I would have thought that you would have been asked to get an approval from the historic district.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
For a drive.
the historic district permit, and I believe the statute are pretty clear. We have jurisdiction over buildings and structures. Structures include driveways and walkways.
Right. When we put the barn in, when we did apply for the C of A for the barn, there was discussion of access, and there was discussion that there would probably be access. Well, we kind of knew right at the beginning we would access from Parsons Farm. So that was, I don't know if that was all included in the barn or, how this all laid out. But it
Driveway
was
is a separate issue from the structure. And because I think I missed one of the discussions, what are the vehicles that are going to be visible from Parsons Farm?
a pickup truck or two.
So the maximum number of vehicles that would be of concern would be 2 pickup trucks.
Yeah, during the day, there might be more vehicles there, but parked there routinely would be 2, at the most.
so this fencing here, this is Parsons Farm?
No,
that's mine.
That's Lime Street?
that's Lime, that's looking down the main driveway
Okay.
on Lime.
So are you
Hold that.
proposing putting fencing kind of behind your barn? No.
No, so in depth, on Lime Street here, you're right across from the Audubon Society, the house, and then going down the driveway, there's a garage that sits pretty much behind the house. And then a little bit to the left and behind the garage is now the barn.
Right.
When we were proposing the fence panels was between the barn and the garage. And shielding the view, because the driveway goes in at a bit of an angle, kind of. One panel would be here, another panel offset behind it a little bit, so that it wasn't,
So your objective is to sort of shield this barn activity from Lime Street, sort of?
right.
Barn.
We are renting the house, we have a tenant there, and a comment was made by him that prompted this, that he's always looking at us out there. and which was always the case. He knew that when he rented it, so, but we're trying to appease different.
Mitigate that.
And Todd, what is the barn and the pickup trucks, what are they used for?
What's it used for?
They're not
Property maintenance.
that property?
Yes.
You need 2 pickup trucks to maintain?
Well, one pickup truck is, we have an RV, an Airstream trailer that we house in the barn, and that comes out, every couple weeks. And the tow vehicle for that is a pickup truck that we keep on site. Then we also have a maintenance vehicle, which is another pickup truck, an older pickup truck that we use for dump runs and bringing in gravel and cleaning up trees and whatnot.
It is in these pictures, Todd,
Yes.
there's on what you initially proposed, there's a gap.
Okay, so that's that's between the garage and the barn. That's on the other side of the house. That's on the north side of the house. What we wanted to do was kind of break up the view with panels. Again,
This is on the north side.
that's on the
So
north
this is
side of the
coming-
house.
Coming towards you.
That's between us and Malloy's. And what we wanted to do between that view between the barn and the garage is the barnyard, if you will. The busy part in front of the barn. So we're just trying to take attention off of that and with some panels. Now, we envision that it be landscaped against them, probably landscaped between them. Again, we don't want to make it look like a compound.
So, but are these to fill in the fence? Or no, just have the panels?
Just have the panels and maybe some landscaping in between them.
Gaps.
Gaps, yeah.
I mean, a bigger question is,
Done a site visit? Haven't we have agreed that for projects like this, we would do a site visit?
Yeah, it's a good
first?
idea.
yeah, we would need to do a site visit. Which is, I mean, you don't need to be there if you give permission, but just to kind of get a first-hand view of where things would go. I suppose if we step back for a minute, Todd, an issue is whether these sorts of solid panels are consistent with the historic district. There are a few instances in the district where there are solid panels, but to the best of my recollection, they're all perpendicular to Lime Street, so you're not looking at these solid panels frontal view, face on.
In that part of the district, it's either a stone wall or it's a picketed, open, or a rail fence, like your fence, John, the rail fence. So the idea being that the land is visible through the fencing.
And yours is,
Pickets.
the fence, yes, but your house is tall.
It's 4 feet.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
4
it's,
Landscaping also, right?
Landscaping.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, that maybe landscaping.
And that's our eventual goal. I think what the neighbors and our tenant wanted was something more immediate. Landscaping will take time, and to grow in and get the same effect a fence would have. So that's the reason why, preferably, I'd like to do it with landscaping.
And have you all considered the possibility of a more open fencing with landscaping rather than the stockade fence with landscaping?
Correct. We're open to any type of fencing. We don't have our heart set on any particular. We wanted something that looked substantial enough, not flimsy. We wanted something of probably the cedar variety, not any plastic or anything like that. But we're open.
Are you there to do maintenance like once a week? I'm kind of curious, is that you're renting the property and then the tenant is asking for a separation of the property. Is there a frequency? What's driving that request?
Okay, so we're renting the house and the yard and the garage, and that's about a half acre of the 2 acres. We maintain to have the the barn, I have a hobby wood shop in the barn at this point. It does have a chimney and it has wood heat. Certainly I'm not going to be there every day, but we're probably there 2 or 3 or 4 days a week, depending on the weeks, and then we may not be there for a month. But there's as you know, there's a lot of landscape to be maintained. There's some fruit trees. There's a lot of blackberry. There's a blackberry orchard. So we're there quite a bit
During the day.
During the day, we're never there after hours.
Yeah, right.
So that's what the tenant is, sort of.
Yeah, we get there about 10 o'clock in the morning typically if we're there that day, and we're there through mid-afternoon.
Site visit. And the stockade fence is something that sort of feels out of place to me, because as you point out, most of the ones here are this way.
I think all of them.
They divide between separate properties, but
Right.
the idea of dividing a property with that is not in keeping or in character with other properties in the district that I've seen. Yeah.
So what would be some options other than the stockade fence? So one would be landscaping, but that wouldn't be satisfactory to the neighbors since it would take several years for that to grow in, right? So it would take something more than that?
Well, the comment I have now is the neighbors, I think their review may have been premature. We weren't finished when those comments were voiced. I haven't approached them recently at all. How's it look?
It's not unlike Pamela across the street who's still in construction. There's plenty of... Right, and you were still in construction on the barn, so maybe that has relaxed that issue a bit.
It may have. Again, I don't want to speak for them. There was 2 very similar comments from 2 neighbors that are not in the historic district. They're on Parsons Farm, setting back. So they were notified as abutting and adjacent neighbors, and they did comment. And the comments...
But the real issue is really your tenant, right?
Well, it's both. I mean, the tenant came in April 1st. Everything was there. He knew what he was getting into. I think he's trying to change it a little bit up after he's there, but improve it a bit. But it is what it is, and
As is.
Yes.
If I could make a comment, I don't know if you guys can hear me. This is Teresa.
I'm sorry. Could you identify yourself, please?
Sure. This is Teresa McShane. I co-own the property with Todd Brink. And part of this conversation kind of weaves into our re-upping of the certificate of appropriateness for a small shed, like a garden shed. And the reason I want to bring that up is because currently the wood pile, which I think was one of the things that one of the neighbors thought was an eyesore, that's a temporary situation. Eventually we're going to have a nice garden shed there. The wood pile will probably be restocked somewhere else out of sight. And beyond that, I think Todd and I have kind of landed in a similar place as where you guys feel. Your feedback's been very helpful. I think most of the visual things we could probably handle with some rapid growing shrubbery. And I think the garden shed takes care of the wood pile comment. And, we just wanted to know what are the guidelines around fencing should we want to go in that direction down the road. But there's no urgency for fencing as far as we're concerned.
Well, we're not, thanks, Teresa. We're not voting on fencing today, obviously, but I think you've heard comments around the table suggesting that folks might, have a difficult...
Right.
what do you call that? Solid plank, stockade type.
In the north
Yep.
side of the property, we haven't discussed it, but the north side of the property between us and the abutting owner, there is a 5-foot-high brownstone wall that runs from Lime Street all the way to the end of the property.
And there are other examples in the district of solid fencing that are perpendicular to
And that's
Lime Street.
perpendicular to the lot. It's perpendicular to Lime Street.
Yeah, and that's less problematic than driving down the street and
That's been
seeing
there
stockade
100+
fences.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we agree with. I think we basically are in agreement with you as to the look of putting some sort of fencing parallel to Route 1. I think we're in agreement with you. We will probably find some other options.
I mean, we have no jurisdiction over cars or where you park your cars, but just in general, in keeping with the character of the district, I know you're sensitive to not
Well, we're very sensitive. We live in the historic district in Mystic. We're also here. This is not a surprise to us at all. We kind of enjoy working with you folks, and this whole property has been a 4-year project.
We do have to take action today on one thing. Am I correct, Martha, about renewing the garden shed C of A because
That's the one I gave to you, the garden shed one. Can I hand it to you?
So if I could just comment too, the garden shed proposal was put in before the barn was built, and we had a vision for that. And I don't know if you need for me to put in writing some modifications, but I think now we still very much want to do the size, the shape, the general concept. But now I think we're more interested in having it match the barn that has been built. So I think visually that would look much better. So there's slight modifications in the original application and certificate of approval. Do you need us to take steps on that?
I would think yes, Teresa. If you're modifying the original design, we do need a record of that.
Okay, it's just basically going to be the color to match the barn, and the roof probably right side. We'd want the roof to be congruent with the barn. Other than that, it's the same shed.
It now has a metal roof in the C of A, so we would probably do it similar to the barn, and we would do probably board and batten
So
similar.
I need a copy of it. Did you send?
There's certainly not a problem with it as you've described it. It sounds like an improvement over the original, but we do need to have
And the other thing is, the shed was something that came up during COVID. We weren't sure. We always wanted the barn. We weren't sure we could do it, so we decided maybe we can do the shed in the interim, and then we had a chance to jump on the barn, and we did. We still want to come back and do the shed, but it's not pressing. It's not something that we're going to probably do this year, probably next year.
When you're ready, a few months before you think you might start, I'd say come in on that.
Yeah.
So that.
And is that just to clarify, is that just an administrative step if I were to put it into an email, or do you need, let me know what needs to be done to modify the current certificate of appropriateness? Do you just need an email describing the color and the roof material?
I actually think you need to do a C of A, Teresa, because it is in some significant ways different from the original shed.
And to include new pictures.
Yeah.
Yes. That would be.
We could update the C of A.
Attach an addendum, but technically we would be voting on a different structure than we approved 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
John, do we need to, I understand the drive is in, but just for precedent, do we need to do a C of A on that as well? at this point, or?
Is it a new drawing?
It was new, but it was done without approval by the historic district.
Probably for our record keeping point of view, I think we should do it to have it all accurate. That's what we're trying to achieve.
John, if you'd like to swing by and look at it, you're more than welcome to do that.
Well,
So you wouldn't mind doing that? Just completing the C of A for the driveway?
I would do that separate from the,
Yeah, that's something that, that's.
So that we can have a complete record of the work that's been done on your property?
Now, is there anything else on that property that Smart needs to? There's no air conditioning, there's no propane cans, there's.
Not that I know of. I'm sorry.
Where are we leaving the fencing? Would you be able to provide photographs, for example, of what it might look like with an open fence of some sort?
he's pulling.
He's pulling it.
He's not doing fencing.
Just pulling.
He's doing landscaping.
Yeah.
They're doing landscaping.
And then if we need a fence, we'll come back.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and the issue of zoning and building, giving you the go-ahead without coming here is an issue that in other contexts we've raised with those departments and are revising our form, and we trust they are revising their forms to provide some.
So it's not,
Some
you
clear
follow
notice.
the procedures you were.
Yeah, and of course, I didn't beg for more involvement either.
So, all right, I I think we're, unless you've got anything
Thanks for
else,
the talk,
Todd.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Ken.
Yeah, Thank you very much.
Teresa, and
Thank you very much.
Again, the barn looks great. So.
And
Thank you.
The front landscaping.
Well, thank you. That's going to be an ongoing project.
Yeah, but it's just, the changes are good. Yeah, it's very
Thank you.
attractive.
Yeah, thanks very much. Okay, next up is
44.
44 Lime Street, new AC unit.
Here on that?
Nobody's here on that. They tried to call, let me see if I can call them.
Well, let's proceed while we're
The order.
waiting to the Old Lyme Historical Society, new back door.
I am Mark Weir. I'm the new chair at the Lime Historical Society.
Congratulations, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know, would you like me to just quick review what it is we're doing, or would you like to ask questions? Or?
Look, your photographs, I haven't seen them.
Public review would be good.
Here.
Oh, good, thank you.
Did you?
I think I saw it long ago.
Effectively, what we're doing is, there was a shed, the Grange owned the building, when they built the building, they built a little shed over the stairs down to the basement.
Okay.
And that shed has been there since the 1920s, probably.
Okay.
See, that's good with it.
And it, but we take the opportunity to replace it with a structure that looks more like the back door that's next to it. So more in the style of the back door that's next to it. But there's also a material reason for doing that. It's not strict aesthetic. When the place was first being used as the Grange, they probably had just a gravel drive there. And so the water shed very well off the main roof of the building. But now that it's all paved with tarmac, the water tends to run back down around the corner there. And the little tiny lip that the little tiny sort of semi-foundation they made for their shed is just not sufficient to keep the water from sometimes running down steps into the basement. So we thought we'd fix that by adding another course or two of block, solid block, in the foundation of the new shed we're building over.
So this shed would come out entirely rather than
It's essentially, it is a properly speaking shed roof at the moment, and we're gonna put a peak back to replace it so that it matches the little overhang that's over the real back door of the building, you know.
Oh,
right.
so I see.
So one question I have is, you note, I just read the comment, that there's a glazing on the door, and I'm looking at the elevation of the door. Is the glazing the two?
I think that's what it looks like, the top panel of the door.
What's the material of the door?
It's a wooden door.
It's a wooden door. So is that a glass then?
I think so, yeah.
So is there a divided light in that, or is that, it looks just kind of
it does look
very
like
modern
that,
to
but I
me.
don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we'd certainly make it, well, there's a single light in the door, the proper back door of the building, which this is an attempt to match.
Oh, I see.
So
You have an existing single light. I see. Okay.
You know, the whole, the decorative, you know, the little, whatever you call those things, the little gadgets that hold up the pretend to hold up the roof.
Brackets, yeah.
Yeah, the brackets.
That all looks good.
The brackets are a decorative element over the proper back door, and there's a piece that is over the...
So you don't have a photograph of the actual door that will be used?
No, we don't have a photograph of the actual door.
But it is, we should note that the door will be
Wood.
wood.
If you want to specify a single light, we'll be glad to do that. It's not, you know, the reason for the light is because the actual use of that, it's not really used typically as an access to the building, but what the Grange always did, and what we'll probably end up doing to some extent, is they used it as a shed, you know. So if you're in there looking for a rake or something, the fact that there's glass in the door means you can see. You can just see there's the rake.
The fact of light doesn't, I would expect that, I guess, just in the historic nature of a very large pane of glass isn't typically what you would see, because glass was expensive back in the day, and so you see divided light, not unlike this. So I was just questioning the longer single. But if the other door...
Late 1920s, so it's not that unusual.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The gun club that the Grange originally used over here is from the 1880s.
Right.
But by the time they bought it and dragged it over to their new lot on Lime Street, it was 1926 or 1928.
Yeah, that period you would have seen.
So, and they built onto the original gun club to create the stage that's there. So that whole back part of the building is really from the 20s.
Should look a little like that.
I'm sorry, I may have missed some of that.
So this is the door on this shed, right? This door is going on the new shed.
If I could see better, I could answer right away. But
Just so, it's not the other door, the existing.
No, it is not the existing door.
Okay,
To see a picture of the existing door, you have to go to the photograph.
Right.
Yeah, that's
right.
You know, the proper back door of the building.
And it's
Yeah.
divided light pane,
Divided
right?
lights.
Don't know.
It looks like
It is divided.
Yeah, but they want to put a door.
It looks like it's,
So that's what I'm at.
Oh, yeah.
Why wouldn't we do divided?
Whatever it is, that's, the intention is to match that.
Okay, right. That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
The diagram didn't show divided light.
the question is, if you have a divided light on the new shed door, match this,
That's the whole.
noise.
Matches in all ways.
but
Okay.
it's not.
It's not drawn that
It's
way.
not drawn that way on your sketch.
That was my confusion. Yeah.
But that's a
Few
good
lines missing there on the
specification.
Yeah.
The new
Yeah.
door.
Match and design of the existing door.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then, this is a minor question, but on the side, it shows this being raised by 2 blocks, and then in the front, where the door would go, it's raised only by 1 block.
That's right, because you don't have a huge step to go over to get down into the So,
I see.
so it's 2 blocks on the side, and then at the corner,
Detail right
where the doorway is,
Yeah,
only,
Of course.
that's what
You
I
got
got
two on
about.
so at the moment, it's practically ground level. And that's causing problems.
Now,
Okay. And the siding be removed
To match the building,
to match the building.
now, am I seeing a ramp in this?
Yeah, I think basically he's saying that he wants to make, instead of having, the ground level,
Right.
and then a step up over a block and a step down to the step, which is kind of a tripping hazard, he's going to put a ramp. They're going to build a ramp up to it so that it's, goes
Good for everybody.
down.
Right. And is that just concrete or a wood ramp?
Or a concrete. There are concrete sidewalks that serve onto the back door and the driveway.
So are those new walkways?
Yeah, I suppose so. That they're being paved. The front walk was always
Yeah, good catch on
I'm
that.
not sure exactly when the Grange put in the sidewalk.
For the use.
Probably at the same time that they put on the front porch and all that.
We do, I believe, need to see proposal for any
The
new
new paving.
driveways or sidewalks. We're,
All right?
in general, not fans of asphalt.
Everyone
We do know that you have an asphalt driveway, but this walkway is what material on this end?
That's concrete.
That's a concrete.
The driveway is asphalt and the sidewalks are concrete.
But we would need to have an application to show
Okay?
the width, the proposed material, the length, the course of it.
Okay. There's a very short distance to the driveway between this shed and the driveway, so.
Yeah.
In terms of conditions,
I don't, yeah,
would you be keeping this side window on the shed?
It doesn't show in the diagram. I think.
I don't believe so, no.
The original shed had a window on both sides?
It's, the light in the door is performing the same service as the windows do, basically giving you enough light to turn on the light to see something in the shed.
So in terms of conditions, what I'm gathering is we need one condition to specify that the door in the sign match the existing and that it's a wood door, and the third condition being that the covering be clapboards to match the house.
I thought it was specified in here, but I'm not sure.
I may have missed it, Mark, but
It's in the narrative.
It doesn't say anything about this.
No, it doesn't. I know that is the plan, but I will redo this in such a way that it specifies.
Well,
You don't have to
with the approval, the minutes will, and when
Oh.
we send back the approved C of A, we'll
These will be-
conditions.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
The motion, and I'm certainly ready to entertain one, would be to approve the C of A application with those conditions that I just outlined.
Are you making a motion, John?
No.
No, okay. Well, I'll make the motion that we approve the C of A with the condition of the new door being a wood door that to distinct entrance, or north entrance door.
Northeast.
North. The siding matches existing siding on the historic house.
And you need the drawing.
And the roof.
What was,
It's going to match the,
the roofing matches that on that, and it matches the roofing on the house, and it looks like it's matching the pitch too, but I think that's already shown on the drawing, so.
I would expect.
Yeah.
It's not exactly matching.
Well, it's matching the pitch
In other
over
words,
the other door.
it's not as steep as the house pitch.
Yeah.
But it's to match the,
Of the other, well, maybe we should put that in, match the
Yes.
pitch on the existing northeast entrance, yeah.
Then what about the sidewalk?
we need
We just didn't wrap a COFA application for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, separate one for that?
because that's,
I will second.
We have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
okay, is there any further discussion about the shed or the door on the shed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstaining?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I owe you another application for the sidewalk, and I'll do it again.
For coming.
Okay, would you, I'm sorry? Are they on the phone?
They might be on the phone.
Okay. Are folks here from number 44 Lime Street?
Yes, Bill Koch, present.
Bill, thank you.
You're welcome.
Paperwork here.
Yeah. There's a lot of it.
Okay, this is a proposal for,
The small AC in the back of the building.
but this is a certificate of liability
Is it?
insurance.
So, yeah, I think it's for their work. They submitted what they're doing.
But what are the specs for the,
This is all we have. We have this, and then the certificate of insurance. Yeah. So that's all we have.
so, Bill, what would the specifications be on this proposed AC unit?
I really don't know. It's just to replace the old one, which was about 30 years old and relied on Freon and was actually leaking. So the Foley Furnace people who actually put the heating system in here said we should get these parts ordered because of the whole supply chain problems and get this in. And then they just did it. So this is kind of like we're filing nunc pro tunc, so to speak. But I didn't want it to break down in the middle of the summer when it was really hot. But I don't really know the specs. I could get them for you. It's smaller. It's a smaller size than the old one in actual size.
Same location?
Same location, yeah. All the ductwork is in here, so I just kept the same system. And it's pretty tight quarters here, but they, managed to do it. Yeah, same spot. Looks a lot better.
Right.
And this is not at all visible from Lime Street?
Right, it's not. Yeah, and I talked with Mark Whalen. I saw Mark Whalen walk by the other day, the building inspector, and he said he's all set with the whole situation here.
Right.
But yeah, you can't see it from Lime Street.
He's not the Historic District Commissioner.
No, I know. he's a nice guy, but yeah, he's not on the Historic District.
Is the 27 feet that's marked on your sketch, 27 feet to what? Your driveway?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't have that right in front of me right now, but it's probably about 27 feet off maybe about 10 yards off it's a common drive. I own half of it, I think, and maybe the Fairfieldtons own half for a little ways, and then it goes to Mrs. Bugby's house back there.
Okay.
So it's off
So the only folks seeing it would be,
would be Mrs. Bugby Spears. They can see it. And the woman, Jennifer, who just renovated that little cottage behind the Fairfieldtons' house.
Give me a second, because it's hard to visualize.
But it's a replacement, right?
And it's replacing an existing unit.
It's replacing.
And it's smaller than the existing unit.
It is, yes.
Is it on a concrete pad that was there before or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me take a look. It's actually like a metal pad that kind of blends in with the color. It's a kind of grayish, dark gray metal pad. It's right next to the oil tank.
Bill, if I could request, I think we can proceed today to take a vote on approving it, but if you could, after that, just send us what the specifications are, so that because we do serve a record-keeping function of sorts, but indicate the make, the measurements, and the fact that it's sitting on a metal pad or whatever the pad is, and you could send that even by email, and we'll keep it in with the materials on this.
I'm wondering if something like this is also a like for like.
Different size.
It's different size, I guess.
Potentially different make.
Yeah, so maybe not.
It's pretty routine, but.
Yeah.
John, it would still, for record-keeping purposes, be helpful to have a photograph.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And Bill, also, if you could take a photograph, because we do have files with photos of properties and things that we have acted on.
Sure. I'll get all that stuff. I'll drop it off at the town hall.
All right, that would be helpful. Is there a motion to approve this new AC unit with the condition that details about the specifications of the unit and the pad and the photo be returned to the town hall?
I will make the motion to accept the specifications listed for 44 Lime Street, new/replacement AC unit. Photographs to be provided, specifications to be provided to the committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
For discussion? We always have our discussion before the motion. Sometimes we don't know the conditions until we have the discussion.
Yeah.
Deanie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Bill, you're set, and we thank you in advance for sending in those additional details and a photo.
Okay, I will. Thank you. And I'll get them in there like no later than the end of the month. Get everything in there. Probably sooner than that, but.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And we skip it up to number 8, Anthony Kornacki.
It's not here.
He's not here.
Well, why don't you try him, and we'll go to number 9, which is Paul. HVAC. Yeah.
How many times have we seen you here?
We can't get the one that was approved.
Of what?
Ever? I mean,
Supply chain and everything else, he's saying it could be
Come,
6 or 8 months,
come sit with
you know,
us.
puts us into the winter. So,
And are there any other manufacturers who can provide something comparable? Have you exhausted
no,
that?
I mean, we're using Mitsubishi, which is the standard bearer for that, you know. So, I mean, we're the only one that he can get is the one that, you know, he showed up at my house with units that were bigger than the ones he said he was bringing. And they're 39 inches tall instead of 29 inches.
who's the he, Paul? I don't know who he is.
Dunkley, Jonathan Dunkley, installer from Stonehenge. So, I mean, we're going to have to go with it. We don't have heat or air conditioning in the house.
Oh, we can share.
Oh, yeah, here.
Go with the larger one.
Did we approve it last time?
We approved the smaller unit.
Smaller unit, and so he's asking for a variance of
Yeah,
10
we're gonna
inches from before.
I mean, he can't guarantee getting us this smaller unit like ever because of supply chain. He's,
Yeah.
you know, so
And the new unit is 10 inches
New-
above the railing, right? That's what you,
it's going to be a few inches above the railing. The railing's about 37 inches, this is 39 inches.
We're proposing screening.
Okay. And do we know exactly where the place is going to be, or they don't know yet on the,
Right next to the railing.
oh, this is,
so the front?
Oh, they're pulling it
Not the front,
towards the railing.
side, yeah, the railing that goes closest to Lime Street.
Right, so this is, if you're looking at your house, on the right side, there's that upper railing, and it's going to go right there. Okay.
Yeah,
It's close to the house.
Within a few feet, yeah. It's to the side of the window, and the windows are,
What's the weight of the larger unit, Paul?
a couple 100 pounds.
No, how long do you have to wait for it?
Oh, no. Well, it's one of those words. No, he has that. They already showed up with it, and that's when I, contacted you guys. I told him I wanted the smaller one. That's when he told me that he can't actually get that, or can't guarantee he can get it to me before winter.
Is the smaller one installed already?
No.
nothing's installed.
Okay.
So you're proposing to increase the shielding to the height to cover
Right.
it?
Yeah, I mean, that's one solution. I mean, we could
Right.
try to do something with lattice, something like that. Because those things too, those things are on back order as well.
Is that a wooden structure or is
No,
that?
that's aluminum.
Okay, so, Deb, you have something too.
I have, well, this is regarding the piping for, because we had discussed that, of how it was going to be run, and I just have some photographs that I was going to share with the committee to kind of get an idea of, these are also Mitsubishi split systems.
Yeah, I mean, the piping's already out there.
The piping's already on the side of
That's
the...
the thing. You just don't notice this stuff when you walk by on Lime
Okay.
Street. I watch people walking by on Lime Street. Nobody's looking up. Everybody's looking at the sidewalk.
So, right, because do you have photographs to show us? Do you have any photographs to show us that the piping, that what's
I mean, all you have
currently...
to do is walk by. The piping is already installed. It's been there for a month.
But it's not.
But the units are not?
The unit is not. The
Okay.
unit on the other side is there, but it's not here. Because we tried to get the smaller unit to be compliant, but, we just can't.
Okay.
We can't wait till winter to heat
Okay,
the house.
so is it run like this where you really can't see it? I know you can't see it.
No, it's actually, it's in the middle of the siding.
But you'll start to see
You
it
just
when a unit goes up.
Right, so have we done a site visit?
In our minds, where is the piping? Right here. So it comes right down in the middle of that side.
Right, yeah, right there.
And did we approve that? The placement of that? We approved the
We
placement?
did that because it was going to be the smaller unit. So the change has been requiring this bigger unit. Right?
Right.
Smaller.
Yeah. But you're saying the bigger unit is already installed on
No.
one side?
Yes. And it's behind the bushes. The holly bushes.
Holly.
Did we do site visit
No.
for this?
Deanie and I did.
Oh,
Okay.
So, the real question.
I'd like to follow up on this structure. It's not wood.
No.
No,
This is screening. This is
I know.
proposed screening.
right, so it's
The material
aluminum.
for the
This is-
screening.
To go on top of the porch, and it would be above the porch railing.
Right.
Stand be above the porch railing.
Right, and is it white? Or is it, what color?
It's white.
But this is just a proposal, right? It
Yeah,
doesn't
that's,
have to
I mean,
be
that's
this.
just one
This
solution.
is just one solution. It
I
could
mean,
be
we
something
could
else.
build something out of lattice. I mean,
What about the idea of suggested making a cover that looks like clapboard? It looks like,
we could do that, but these things have to breathe.
It has to have air.
but it would be open at the top.
Yeah, that's still, I mean, we'd have to build it, 4 feet around,
I think you-
away from it.
Yeah, I
That's
think,
the reason why something like that is the standard that people.
so if you make a solid, like a clapboard, you have to pull the screening away from the unit so the air can
Right,
get to it.
ventilation all around it.
The screening can be smaller if it has ventilation built into
I
it.
understand.
Right, exactly.
So do we have we don't have an exact size and dimensions on this screen?
No, I mean, that's just
Okay.
one solution. I
Okay.
mean, if everybody would rather we do a lattice, we can do a lattice, something like that.
Would it be better to do something like this in wood?
I don't know that we can't get anything like that in wood.
Or ASEC.
Well, it needs to be like louvered, I don't know.
What I'm suggesting is wood-like in appearance versus seeing aluminum as a smooth
Yeah.
finish, even if it's not wood, but a wood-like appearing product.
Mhm.
Well, good luck finding one. They do not make very many of these these are apparently, the Europeans use these on their houses, and they're really hard to find. Only one manufacturer in the U.S., down in Miami.
This just looks like a slatted, oh, I see, it's actually louvered in shape, the bottom part. Is that critical?
No, I mean, it just needs to have openings so that we can.
Right. I mean, I don't see why this is any different than just a slatted wall of
I mean, we
wood
could
or
certainly
something.
do that.
Yeah.
That would be easier.
I think that's what you're asking, yeah.
And to go back to Deb's point, is this also a unit that must have piping directly down to it?
Yeah.
Couldn't go over next to your basement door, the unit on the ground?
No, I mean, if we went to the basement door, we have to go all the way across the house and then wrap around the corner and go down. And
But that could-
this is the least intrusive, the least,
I know, but also the most visible.
it would still be there, but it would go across the house as well.
I understand.
But it would move this.
You wouldn't see that on the...
Right, I have photographs of a house in Stonington that this was the cover for their AC units. And I don't know the exact material, and it's black, but it's done very nice. And this is, like I said, in the district in Stonington Village. So, I mean, it can be done, but I understand, it needs to be, the ventilation needs to be there.
If it's too open, you see the unit.
Right.
That's down.
Right, it's
below
down.
ground.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
You want
This is just going to be so visible.
yeah.
But I'm saying they're also using two different, they have lattice and yet they have, a horizontal piece.
So what I'm hearing, John, if you could relocate it around to the side, but then there was the pipe.
They say we can't.
They say you can't.
I think technologically it's possible.
Right.
But I don't want to run this white pipe all the way across the siding of the house.
But that might
As I said, I will paint this yellow.
That might be less objectionable than a box of a large scale on the side of the house.
Well, they're telling me they can't do that. I'm thinking it's possible, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather build some other type of a shield.
You consider building a boxing and some piping that would remove the big unit?
I'm sorry?
You were saying
He thinks it's technologically
Possible.
Right.
He's got a concern.
I mean, I've asked these guys if they could do that. They say no because they can't get around the corner. I can kind of understand it because there's copper piping in the pieces that come down. So probably what they need is, a more gradual curve as opposed to like a sheer 90-degree
elbow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think on the porch, boxing in and just painting it yellow. As you say, you don't even notice it. Really, like you've already installed the piping.
We plan to paint the piping yellow. Just to blend in with the side of the house.
Right.
I haven't gotten to that yet. The addition's pretty big. We're trying to get into the kitchen at the very least.
Can I see the photograph where the one is already painted and piped? Is that the one that shows the current piping that you said that?
No.
He doesn't have a photo of that.
Oh, okay. I would like to see a photo of like what's currently there.
Well, all you need to do is walk over there. I'll give you, I can take a photo.
Take a photograph and show it to us too.
But if I take a photograph, I'll take it from the sidewalk. That's where people walk.
Right. Yeah, that would be good.
So Paul, if you were to wrap it around, that were technically possible, and you were to wrap it around and paint it yellow, at what height would it be?
It would be above it would have to be above the patio doors on that porch. And then it would have to run down because it would come across and hit the eaves. So it'd have to go across, come down, go around, and go down.
I would like to see a schematic of both units and the piping so that you have it for your files and that we know.
And have Paul maybe explain it, right? Would that be helpful? Right, is it?
Schematics would also help.
Right.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
We're
So-
also running a bit behind.
So let's finish, yeah.
I think with the new scale that's being proposed, I think that we should investigate the alternative that you think is potentially possible. And if the site visit helps to do that, it seems to me that would be worth the effort.
I'm wondering, I know you need to get going on this.
Well, it's already piped. They've got the unit, they want to come and put it in.
It's just if this other.
Yeah, I just don't know how you do that, though, honestly. I don't know how you bend copper 90 degrees and expect it to keep working. Those guys are telling me they can't do this. I figure it's possible, but I don't know. And we couldn't put it all the way on the other side of the house because that's not where the bedroom is. All the way to the right of it, plus there's a set of doors and a window right there. We wouldn't have been able to come down.
There's bent copper pipe all over the place.
Yeah, but not like a quick 90.
They don't make piping with a little elbow.
I don't think they make piping that goes like
Well,
this.
in this one, they did it all interior. They did, well, no, but they did, this was for, to drain the condenser. Like, this is what they did. They did it interior, like this is in a closet kind of thing.
Sure, and if we had a house with walls that weren't solid, we would have run it inside. Our walls are siding, planking, lat, and plaster. They're about this thick. You know, I mean, that's,
Right, but also if you had the schematics, then I would say then we can really look at it, or that's how I feel too. I would like to see one unit where it's going to be piped, the second unit, how you're going to cover it, and where it's going to be piped.
I think what's important is to see the scale of this rendered on, or somehow represented on the roof, at the two possible
Right.
locations.
Let me suggest this, that we try to schedule a special meeting very soon, convening at your house so we can listen to you, so we can all have a clear picture of what this would look like.
I mean, it can look like whatever you want it to look like.
I know,
That's
but
the thing. I'm willing to
it's
work with you guys.
hard to picture it in the abstract.
Right, and it's what your installers do.
I can't envision how far above, you know, what this structure is going to look like from the street. We had a pretty elegant solution for the smaller unit, but that's not
Right.
gonna work.
Right.
I second your idea.
Well, I mean, if you look at the, if you look at the village shops, they've got one of these types of units and they've screened it with lattice. It's right alongside the parking lot there.
Right. Down on the ground.
That's different than having it be up.
It's behind and it's down on the ground
Yeah.
and it's in the parking lot. It's a little different situation than
Yeah, no, I know, and right across the street, they've got one, you know, in the old, PF Watermelon building. It's right on the side of there. And at the end of Lime Street, they've got 3 of them or 4 of them, just right out there.
Yeah.
We're aware of those.
They're at the, anyway, I know where they are. I think what's giving us all pause is this being up there on the porch and so visible. This being, you know, where these kinds of units usually are, which is just tucked in on the side of a building somewhere. So, but we have all the other people here.
I think we should schedule a site visit and ask Paul for, Deb asked for schematics, Russ asked for photographs. I did too, so that we could see what does the rear of the building look like, that if you could provide us with additional information so we could assess the alternatives, that would be very helpful. In return, we would come and have a special meeting at your house and look at the site, and then we can proceed with a decision.
Let's do it.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect, to schedule a meeting as soon as possible?
Yeah, that's fine, but if these guys, you know, if these guys can get us on schedule, I mean, we're probably going to pull the trigger.
We'll try to schedule a meeting. I mean, we haven't approved it yet, so you can't pull the trigger, can you? I mean,
Everybody else has these things at their house.
Yeah, but that's
Right?
what we're
I mean,
trying,
this
that's
is
what we're trying
exclusionary.
to,
You can't
that's
tell
what,
me I can't have something that everybody else has.
you can have it, Paul. The question is where and how
There's
it's,
only
and
one
how
place to
it's,
put it.
and how it's screened.
There's only one place to put it. I can't drill through the porch.
so Paul, we'll try to schedule a meeting that suits your schedule, so if you provide us with the
I work
date.
from home. I'm available.
Okay. So we'll schedule it as soon as possible.
I do too, so I'm available.
Are you making a motion to that effect? To schedule a meeting?
Yes.
A special meeting.
For a special meeting? There has to be time, Martha, to advertise it, yes? Or send out notices about it?
24 hours.
Okay. So we'll do our best to be available.
Should we try and?
I second the motion.
In favor?
Aye.
Good, okay.
We can discuss dates at the end of the meeting.
We have your email, so we'll.
Yeah, you know how to get in touch with me.
And we'll, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Your call.
Okay,
Eric Moriello.
we are running a bit behind, but not too far. Eric?
There's one.
Good. We can make up time.
Let's see what I can do.
Yeah, we can check it.
I only made 3 copies, apology.
Here's your
But,
Yours 70.
the first one is from 2009. It's almost imperceivable. The second and third photo are from 2020. That's
Okay.
the old fence. You can see the tree that you guys are saying it didn't go past. It
And you
goes
got
right
it.
past it.
Revised.
Yeah.
into-
And then the last couple pictures are, well, sort of current. The day I put it up, this tree,
Oh, yeah, that's right, I
that
saw
tree
that.
fell down and took down 5 panels.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, and then the ground was frozen, so I waited, and then I got a note from you guys, so I waited again.
Here's
And you're doing the pool, right?
Yep, so at one point, I had to take a couple panels down. Look at 2020. So at one point, there was a couple panels that were taken down and put right back up because there was new cedar posts. So there is, I did find in the timeline that there were some missing, but look at 2020. That's the tree that you guys are talking about.
They came down.
This tree came down, but look at, the panels run 1, 2, 3, you can see a 4th here. There was a 5th. When you guys came to the site visit, you guys did come to the house, they were there. You guys were standing right next to them.
Right.
Those were
The put.
original to the home, so this is the way I had it.
So what we're trying to accomplish
Okay.
is that in the district, there are not, the fences that divide properties in your case, just separating from the access to the
Right.
school, if they don't extend so far out to Lime Street.
Okay.
So that's really our only
And
concern. Yes.
and you guys can even come check it out. There are cedar posts in the ground that some of them I was trying to pull out. I couldn't get them out. I cut them. So the
Oh, you're
bases
saying
of-
they're
the bases-
original?
Yep.
Or
And
original.
they're still, you can still see them. So I'm not making, and again, you guys came to the house before you approved it. You were standing next to the fence, and that's what that's what was there. So I just pulled old ones out and put new ones in. Sometimes I couldn't pull them out, so I locked them off at ground
So
level.
the status now, though, is that this section from the street back for, 5 panels is not?
It's not because
Because of
that tree, the town's tree fell down, and then the town was like, oh, well, there was a discussion on who was supposed to take care of it. They said that it's my problem because even though it was their tree, it fell on my property. That's one of those weird things in the world.
That's
but
actually true.
It is. It's weird, but that happened, and then by the time I got the letter from the town that said that, the ground was frozen. It was winter.
Right.
Which brings us to the spring, and then I got a letter from you guys. I said, well, I have the panels. I got them, so I was ready to put them right back up. But again, I'm not trying to, I know at one point they pulled panels down to put in, because there were old cedar ones, they put in square, like more modern posts, but they were originally cedar, like cedar tree posts holding some of them up. And so I know that in the point where right around where I was buying the house, they pulled some panels down to put like Home Depot style posts.
Anyway, we've approved it. Right, Martha? This has been approved. We're really just asking you to consider, not having the fence extend quite so far.
Okay.
Just because it looks like this block and the properties are, more.
Divided.
But that's really,
So there's a sample, is there, across the street of
well, there are quite a few that we have.
And there are also
Steps.
that swoop down like this. So-
Yeah, and I was considering, bringing it down to a lower level, and I'll look at that, but a couple other things that I'll bring up is in the midst of not having those, the town mower guys who don't use flaps on their mowers because they're mowing for the school, shot a couple rocks and broke a couple of my windows.
Oh, great.
So that's one. Two, a couple of kids have driven through my yard
Oh, no.
to get to, so
Yeah.
they'll go off roading because these, they decided to be goofballs and go through. And so that's another.
The step down would be nice because I think it would solve the rocks, it would solve driving through,
Right.
but it would maintain some visibility to your house, which we want to see.
And I was just doing a like for like. That's what, when I did like for like, I tried to find the closest panels. I did it. I pulled the pole out and had the pole put in at the exact same spot. So, but I wouldn't mind. I would be open to stepping it down at one point or at some point, and doing something like that.
Some along this side of the street here where they're stepped, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit going up, they're lower.
Yeah.
But the one that is curved.
There's the curve.
Yeah, I would curve one and bring it to a lower level if I was going to do that.
Yeah.
But like I said, all I did was obey exactly, do exactly what,
Sure.
when I got the house again.
And how, ideally, from your perspective, how close to the street would you want the fence to continue?
Well, it's funny. I would have said I didn't care about those 5 panels until someone drove through and thought that was a fun thing, and I was like, you know what? That's,
How about rocks?
And
Big white rocks.
yeah. So
That works.
Yeah, that's an option.
And
so I think maybe the step down or something, but I like the idea of having a division there because twice a day, every day too, the traffic is lined up there, and it just makes me feel like I have a step parking lot. So.
And have you considered landscaping? Would that work at all?
That will happen. That
No, I mean, instead of a continuous.
I don't think so. I think landscaping.
Prevent the cars.
What's that?
It would prevent the cars.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Not the rock.
Yeah. I just, I think I'm going for landscape in addition to, but I think a step down panel or bring it to a lower level might do the trick. But
We'd love to see a picture of it. I mean, we understand, but since it is a prominent house in the district, it'd be nice.
I'm just trying to make what looks like a jungle in that first picture look more like a house that belongs on the street. So I'm working at it. It's taking time, but
Okay.
But yeah, I can provide a picture. I'll draw something up and
Or
send
just
it out
send
to
us
you.
a photo of what you're thinking about doing to the email.
Sounds good.
Great.
Well,
Okay,
we
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Eric.
So,
Okay.
Kornacki's on the phone. Okay.
Hey.
Okay. I think it's quick. I'm sorry, anyone that's here.
See, I can't really tell from these photos got blurred, so I don't know if that was a copy or...
No, it's the copier. So he's putting it on the back. Is Anthony there?
Yes, I am. Hi, folks. How are you?
Okay. Great. So, does this include the spec? Sorry.
It's a 28-gallon,
I don't have any...
It's on the back. It's
28-gallon tank, not a large tank.
right, and it's on the back. Did you say
It's
not visible from the
visible
street?
from
Is
the
it by the garage?
It is, yeah. It's in the rear of the house, in the very far back corner. It's not visible from the Lime Street or Beckwith due to the fencing and all the shrubbery, and you won't be able to. You can't see it at all. It's a cylinder, upright, flush against the house.
And do you know how high it is?
Oh, it's 3.5 feet, 4 feet at most. Our privacy fences are over almost 7.5 feet.
On rear. Okay.
Do you know what direction this is looking, the fence?
Deanie, is there...
This is to the side. The photo, Anthony, that has a little picture of the playhouse in it, that's
that's the corner. Yeah, it'll be behind those trees in the corner. But again, there's so much greenery on Beckwith, and the 7.5 foot privacy fence also has greenery behind it. So there's no
Is it
angle you
behind
can
that
see it.
lattice? Is it also behind that lattice?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, the lattice is
Yeah,
the privacy fence.
You're just not going to see it at all. If this is at the back of the
Yeah,
property.
it is.
Oh, that's the
Yeah,
back.
it's completely invisible
Totally
from.
the back of the property. It's
Okay. That's
Yeah.
all I wanted.
yeah.
Yeah, I think in 2012, like 10 years ago, we were approved for like a 200-gallon above-ground tank in the rear in that same spot. We just never installed it. This is just it's a small cylinder. It'll be hidden by multiple, by the 7.5-foot privacy fence with the lattice, by the shrubs there, then the shrubs behind. It's almost invisible.
It's just
the tank.
Is it just the tank?
we're not going to see it. It's behind, set way back in the yard. It's behind the trees, behind the lattice, back by the.
Nobody's going to.
I can't go far.
Yeah, I don't see any
Okay.
difficulties. Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anthony, thank you very much. I think you're set.
Thank you, folks. Keep up the good work. We really appreciate it in the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
And finally, we come to the proposed zoning overlay district. And this, for those of you in attendance may not be familiar, is concerns a discussion that's been held at a few meetings of the Zoning Commission, and it concerns in large measure possible new uses of 4 nonprofits: the Lime Academy for the Fine Arts, the Lime Art Association, Florence Griswold Museum, and Roger Tory Peterson. We, the Historic District Commission, have no jurisdiction over uses, but we do have jurisdiction over structures, and there's been some discussion of possible new structures, and we thought it might be useful to get a sense of what's involved. We also have jurisdiction to initiate proposals for planning and zoning regs. And so part of our discussion is to consider whether we want to, as a commission, either formally express a view or initiate our own proposal relating to this matter. The land also would concern the Gateway Commission, and there are, I believe, a couple representatives of the Gateway Commission here, also the co-chairs, to hear some background about this. Terry Baum, is it?
Yes.
Has been a counsel to in presenting some of these ideas to the Zoning Commission, and he arranged his schedule. We appreciate it, so he could be here today. We could jump in with questions, but I think, Terry, if you're willing, it would be useful for people here to get a general idea of what's being proposed.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Did you have an opportunity to circulate what I had sent?
I just got it.
And I apologize for the...
I got it this
story
morning.
over the weekend.
This is the latest iteration of Paul's proposal, and I'm afraid we have not had time to digest it.
Sure.
It gives us an idea. And would this just... These are numbered. Would these be numbers
correspond to the zoning regs?
Yeah.
Corresponding to existing zoning regs?
Correct.
Okay.
Proposed amendment.
So let's be clear that some of this exists, some of it doesn't. So the numbers that where it doesn't exist would correspond to the spaces in the zoning regs, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Okay. So just to be clear, we're not proposing any structures, any changes. This is what's called an overlay zone. So what that means is that this would be a proposed regulation that then could be applied to these properties. We're not looking to create any new buildings. We're not looking to create any new or changes, external changes in the existing buildings. And so the idea was, in long conversations with Dan, unfortunately he's headed north on us, but was, look, these organizations are here. They're, I don't know, vital, but they're very helpful to Old Lyme. And let's codify what we're actually doing. And so that's where this all started was, okay, let's get a set of regulations which indicates what these organizations are doing currently, and be able to then say, okay, if, let's say, the Academy wants to be able to do something, we have regulations. So the zoning enforcement officer can say to us, yes or no. We can go to the planning commission and then to the zoning commission, and they can say to us yes or no. And of course, some of the organizations would have to come before this board if they were going to make any changes. And so we tried to put as many sort of, I guess, controls would be a good word, on this as we could, to not interfere with the operations as they currently exist, but if there were changes to those operations, or if somebody wanted, an example is, if somebody wanted to either build or convert structures into housing for their professors or for their students, they would have to go back to the zoning commission. And of course, if they wanted to construct something, they would have to start here. So
I have a question right there. Sure. Wouldn't they have to do that anyway, even without the overlay district? I don't see the difference. If they were going to convert or construct, they would nevertheless have to come.
Yes, they would.
It would be the same.
That aspect of it would be very similar to what we have now, except that under this regulation, they would be able to have short-term occupancy, which you don't have now as a regulation. So if a student wanted to come for 6 months or something like that, they would be able to occupy the space, and we're pretty clear about not having kitchens, that kind of thing. So and again, let me just be clear about that. The idea would be, I don't want you thinking that somebody's going to back into building condos and calling them housing, and then 6 months later say, oh, housing didn't work, now we want them as condos. They can't have kitchens, they can't have. So we were pretty careful about all of that.
How does it, that's my biggest concern.
Okay.
It's the unintended consequences of maybe a future ownership. And we know we have the affordable housing laws that basically say that you can ignore all the other. How does that? How do we prevent something like that from happening?
Well, we think that this does, because what happens with this is it actually allows these institutions to operate and to flourish, in essence. It protects them, as opposed to somebody coming down with what we call an 830G, an application for affordable housing, and saying, you know what, let's pick an example again, the Academy is floundering, let's buy that property, and boy, what a perfect 830G it would be, because it's close to the highway, it's near the center of town. Well, so this regulation, but these regulations, I should say, actually help the Academy, as well as the other institutions, to be able to operate more freely and knowing what they have, as opposed to everything being sort of non-conforming. So I think that's the protection it affords. It allows them to operate in a good and hopefully perpetual manner.
Specified.
Yeah. And so there's no way to prevent, we can't say you can't do that here. But the best way to prevent it, I think, is to have a good, strong organization that continues to flourish.
So it's delineated geographically what this overlay is.
There's a specific map that would go with it that says, okay, these are the properties that this would apply to.
And would it apply to the property that is owned by the college across the street?
It would.
Which has nothing on it.
That has nothing on it now.
So how would this new proposal affect what can or could not be
constructed
built there? Yeah.
So, two things. This does not change the underlying zoning.
I see.
So whatever could be built today could be built tomorrow there, okay? And second of all, again, if they were to put housing there, it would have to qualify with it. It would have to be what's specified here, okay? Meaning, again, no kitchens, that kind of thing. As to other structures, whatever is allowed currently in the zoning could be built there.
But you can't,
or allowed by Historic District Commission and building.
Yeah, when I say zoning, I mean all of your regulations here.
But just out of curiosity, zoning's always a puzzle, but you couldn't come and build a restaurant right now in the historic district.
Yeah, you can't.
So that would not be something that could change with these.
No, that does not change.
With an expanded use, so to speak, because that's
absolutely
what.
Not.
Okay.
So, whatever, it would be just like if somebody came today and said, I wanted to put a restaurant in the historic district. They'd have to go through the same, I didn't look as whether restaurants are allowed.
Right. But so the overlay zone doesn't exempt.
And it doesn't expand really what's.
It doesn't expand the
that aspect.
Is the entire overlay zone in its entirety in the historic district?
No. It's because the overlay
It'd be
zone would
beyond,
extend
outside the 300 foot.
So
right.
It's both. It's in and out.
It's in and out, right.
On the restaurants, and I'm just now scanning this, but you say cafes or bistros, I'm not sure what the difference is, limited to one per campus that exists at the time of the adoption of this regulation. So that seems to refer just to cafes that exist.
Correct.
Before the regulation. So nobody could put in a new cafe.
Well, 70 seats. Keep reading the next line.
Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, if they exist, they could be expanded. I guess for 70 seats.
Let's be clear about that. We had a long discussion with the zoning commission about, well, okay, some of these properties are, like the Flo Grizz and the Academy, are fairly large. So what's to stop somebody from coming in and dividing it and making it 7 different properties and therefore 7 different cafes?
You mean if it failed? I mean, if those institutions for some reason closed and somebody else purchased them?
That was the idea. And so we went around and around and around on that. So the question then became, okay, how do we define? We tried entities. Commission didn't like that. So how do we define what's there now? And the answer was we did per campus. So to address your question directly, the idea is that those campuses have to exist currently. Okay, so somebody can't create new areas. The cafes or bistros, and that I agree with you that I'm not sure what the difference is, but that's the language that was used. is limited to one per campus.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So that exists as
That
modified
exists.
campus. That's
one
modified.
per campus, as the campuses exist. But again, that would be a change of use. Somebody would have to come through. I can't speak to all of them. Obviously, the Float Grizz has a bistro cafe. The Academy has one. And so if the other two, and if they were participating and they said, yes, we want this and we want, then they have to start all over again.
But my understanding, based on Friday's letters from the museum and the Lime Art Association, are that they are not going to be part of
right. And
this. So you're going to have a district with an overlay that applies to two properties that don't connect. Is that it?
I don't know. I got that letter at like 4:30 on Friday, and that's why the delay in getting you this information. It was, I don't know. So today's Monday. As you know, I'm away this week, starting tomorrow. I'll have some answers. So I don't have an answer to that question, and that's why I said if they want to participate.
Well, I got a note from Becky, the director of who's the director of the museum, just an hour before this meeting, saying that our properties are not subject to the terms of the petition.
No.
And is Elsbeth here? Yeah. Is that the same for you? Your view, Elsbeth's the director. Do I have your title right?
Yes.
Of the
yes. No, Lori is retired.
Lime Art Association. So that's your view too?
That is my view too. We are completely supportive of our sister institutions' work, but Becky from the Florence Griswold Museum and myself, we had further discussions with our boards after seeing the proposed regulations, and we think that it's to our best benefit not to be petitioners or to be a part of the overlay district, although we offer full support to the Roger Torrey Peterson Estuary Center and to the Lime Academy of Fine Arts for their work to best meet the...
So, just to be clear again, this sort of morphed into the four institutions being petitioners. That's not how it started. It was the Lime Academy was going to be the petitioner, okay? And we sort of have been running the ball here, and with the support of the other institutions. As a result of all of this, I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll sort it out. This was all news to me, as I said on Friday, and so.
So does this go back to the Lime Academy just petitioning for new uses or codify existing uses?
Right.
And so would Roger Torrey Peterson do that? So not be a zone, but just be two institutions petitioning separately for this?
I could see that. I don't have a lot of answers.
I understand.
I have a lot of questions.
Or an individual variant.
Why an individual variant?
Separate variances. And the Roger Torrey, there were the
I mean, there's sort of a list of things we could do, and the answer is, I don't know which.
You don't know.
And as it turns out, Michael Duffy is away on his mother's 80th birthday cruise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he hasn't gotten any of this. So, surprise, surprise, when he comes home.
It's evolving. I think it's just evolving, and we really appreciate you rearranging your schedule to come in and just brief us.
And again, one of the reasons that I hadn't been here sooner is I appreciate your interest, but I didn't think because this is an overlay and nobody has actually applied for it yet, it really affected this commission as much as the Planning and Zoning Commissions to which we've all been through. And I have had conferences with Torrance about this. He was aware of it, and so we had a preliminary discussion about that as well. So, in any event, with a little rearranging of ferry schedules, here I am.
Well, we appreciate that. I
have a couple of questions.
But it's a good chance to get questions
Just
out.
questions, yeah. One of the things I was curious about is the 2,000 square foot retail request, which seems like the size of a house to me. It's fairly large. So, and I know there's retail at the Flow Grids. There's also
retail at the Academy.
At the Academy. Is that retail of that size, or is there plans for expansion of that?
No, there isn't, and it is actually of that size. It's 2,000 square feet. When you put all the stuff in it, it actually is not that. It's about the size of this.
You mean the art shop? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
The art store, yeah. And so, and again, this isn't like, a bookstore comes in and takes this retail space. It has to be affiliated. It's got to be, as we have said, part of the operation. So the art shop, or if Roger Dory Peterson wanted to do some Audubon sales, books and that kind of thing, then they would be able to do it, as one would expect when you go to a museum or a gallery.
And this use would not extend then to other buildings necessarily. Let's say something did happen. One of the institutions. It would extend to that.
Yeah,
So
with the next buyer, but they'd have to be first of all, they
have to be
nonprofit. Right, and philanthropic and all of the usual stuff. So if they were, like when the Lime Academy took over, then they could still use that space.
Right.
But again, it has to be affiliated with what they're doing.
See, I think that's important, is that both the retail, which is commercial, and then the residential is locking that down, so it's tied to the nonprofit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from the historic district's point of view, is that this overlay doesn't ignore or supersede in any way the historic district review. Parking is another aspect that we would have purview. And I'm wondering, is there any language, or should there be any language that makes a statement that the historic district, and maybe there's some other entities, that we have language as part of the zoning?
Well, but I think what I said...
Is that in here?
No. What I said is that it doesn't replace or amend any existing regulation in here. So, your jurisdiction remains exactly the same, unchanged.
But it might be good to state that, just,
Well, you say nothing in this overlay zone modifies the underlying zone requirements.
No, but at the end, in sort of bold on the bottom.
Oh, I see.
Okay, that's what I was referencing.
How would this affect regarding
I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Well, we have very few regulations, operate from the statute, basically, but anyway.
Okay. Well, first of all, just let's be clear, and I'll add an S to the end of that. We have existing regulations, which I think gives it a little broader scope.
So John, we have power to propose zoning.
Exactly.
And this is a zoning proposal that is primarily in the historic district. And I'm just asking the question, does the historic district, should we propose any language that clarifies, confirms, affirms our position relative to what's being proposed?
That was one of my introductory comments, and I assume that the state gave us authority to initiate zoning proposals because very broadly the Historic District Commission is concerned with the historic character and preserving the historic character of this district, and that relates to zoning issues. So even though we can't say anything about interior design or uses directly. We can't require a certificate of appropriateness applications for those things. We can propose zoning regulations because of the broader concept that we're concerned about preserving the character of the district.
And again, there's no proposed exterior changes with this regulation. I mean, everybody would have to start from square one if they wanted to come back.
But from what your opening statement, if I heard correctly, when you specified what this proposal does not do, it does not request additional, structures or dwellings or whatever. It nevertheless opens the possibility for those structures to be contemplated and to be proposed, so that the possibility of living units that don't have kitchens but have microwaves, fridges, and everything except a stove, that possibility is opened up by this proposal, even though it would have to go through a series of steps.
Okay.
So that seems to me to be a change. It seems to me to be of some significance, because if we're going to keep everything just the way it is, and people would have to go through the same steps, then there would be no need for this. So this provides for the possibility of things changing in the future under this umbrella, if I heard you correctly.
So, let me be clear. The regulation itself doesn't change anything. Does it allow for future changes of things? Yeah, for sure.
But that's a change.
I understand that.
Right.
I understand
That's the
that.
point.
But the point is, again, that people would have to go through the process. Does it allow, I guess what you're saying is it allows a new aspect to the current zoning regulation, and the answer is it does.
And therefore to the historic district.
Primarily in the historic.
It allows a new aspect to the
Yes.
historic district.
Yeah.
And that's where we become concerned.
Yeah. Again, somebody could build condos here or whatever is allowed in the current regulation. And I understand that not having a kitchen is sort of a change, but to me that's an internal change, not an external change. They would still have to come. The building would still have to meet all your requirements, would have to meet all the zoning requirements, would have to be approved by the planning commission as well, and of course all the health and all that stuff that we don't deal with, but somebody does. And so that would still have to happen.
What I'm struggling with is, if nothing is going to change, all these things would be exactly the same, then why are we considering
You would consider codifying is the word, I think.
There we go. That's exactly right.
The current use.
The current uses.
You're trying to codify the current use.
How about regarding outdoor public spaces?
Okay.
Would this overlay require benches, public restrooms, trash bins, sidewalks, that kind of thing? Is that something that...
I hope not. I don't think so, because we're not really looking. Again, if somebody wanted to do something outside. Now, let's be clear. Once a year, the Academy does a gala, always done a gala.
Right.
So there are outside things like that, which are by special permit, and once a year, twice a year, whatever. There was a graduation. And
special event, right.
Okay, put that aside for a moment. The rest, I don't think would require any sort of additional, with things that would be obvious as you drive down Lime Street. I understand that's the idea.
That cause our question.
Yeah, of course.
Once these uses are allowed, are there going to be further requirements in order to allow these uses that would very much affect?
But I think that's why you have to look at each use as it comes along.
There is, my understanding, a state statute that governs cultural overlay districts or overlay cultural districts.
And that's separate.
This is not that.
That's not
I understand. I guess I would urge that terminology be avoided. I noticed
I'm trying to do that.
in Elsbeth's letter, she referred to a cultural overlay district, and I just see potential for confusion on the part of readers, and they say, well, how come I'm entitled to a bench here or whatever?
Nobody's ever accused me of having culture, so I think I can distance myself from that. So,
The term seems to be,
it's hard to, and that was something that we bumped into early on, and it was like, okay, do not want to be
a cultural overlay district.
Yeah, that, and with that statutory conformity. So, but it was hard to get away from that word in describing what everybody does.
One word that raises a question in my mind, and again, not maybe the existing properties, but the future potential use, is recreational facilities. How would that be interpreted?
So
there's a lot of different ways you can recreate.
And one of the reasons we put that in is, again, for either two things that were suggested, like if Roger Corey Peterson wanted to do a bird watch or a walk, so we thought that was recreational. The other was if one of these organizations wanted to do, say, a kayaking or canoeing, because a lot of them have access to the river, that was recreational. So that's why it got included.
That makes sense, but could it be some other kind, again, another different property or owner? It's recreational facilities, which means some kind of structure, right? That could be, an outdoor amphitheater. It could be go-kart racetrack.
Where are you seeing that?
It's under
5.14.1.
Second paragraph.
Philanthropic, educational, that kind of.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, you could have philanthropic, educational, or historical uses plus limited recreational units such as walks or kayaks.
Yeah, we're keeping away from the go-kart.
Yeah,
that
associated recreational activities were,
such as, for example. I don't. You're the drafter, but.
I would love it in keeping with the historic nature of the historic district, which is what I would like to see there.
Why not?
Which is kayaking, which is bird watching.
Right.
But it's not motorized. Yeah. Right.
Drag racing isn't.
Drag racing.
Didn't they do that?
Not here. Not here.
Well, an example, and I think it's a positive one, the car show.
Yeah.
There could be other things that we can't imagine right now.
What happens tonight in light of the meetings? My understanding is zoning has a discussion on their agenda.
Yeah, I think we're going to cancel that until we figure out.
Okay. I mean, one concern.
You're talking about the zoning committee.
We obviously haven't digested this, but to the extent that we have ideas we want to pass along, we don't want to be rushed.
No,
rushed. I mean, if there were yes, tonight we're voting for this. No, I know it's not.
I have that in by noon, by the way. Yeah. So, same with me. I just got this latest news, and so we're just going to put everything on hold. But what I would appreciate is if you did want to have input and ideas, to not just shelve that. Give it to me, because could I anticipate us doing something in August? Yeah, I could.
Is there a zoning hearing in August?
No, in September. I don't know if we can fly in August for September. I think one way or another we'd like to keep it moving, but we're certainly not going to do anything tonight. Okay. I know that John Guskowski's organization was going to be the town zoning person, but as far as anybody knows, have they hired somebody new?
Anybody?
For ZBA?
Have input.
For ZBA?
Zoning.
You don't have that? I don't think so.
I have not heard of any decision being made, and, you know, they had a position, announcement out, which was taken down, they had some applicants, I think they're going through the application process.
But we have no. So my point was, if there was somebody, I guess I'll contact the chairman then and just say, you know, we're not going to see it tonight. Normally I would contact Dan and say, you know, please put us on hold. So that would be terrific if you could give them and copy me. You have my email. Some input, and then let's see what we can incorporate and move forward at the next hearing.
Yeah, we also do not meet in August, so we'd have to discuss logistics of how we can come to a
And our
consensus.
comments would be in response to whatever emerges from your evolving discussion.
Well,
So
they
it's-
could be here, they could be here, it could be an entirely new proposal.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
And then
But I think the framework for our language would be about the same. So I think you can use this as safety uses for
from
these.
there.
Yeah.
But we'll discuss logistics. Terry, do you have anything else you'd like to say? And then I have one other.
Uh-oh.
Well, no, I'd like to share public. I think the venting behind the scenes.
I think you all understand what we're trying to do and the process here, and that's why we met, you know, with the zoning commission informally twice, and with Dan probably a half a dozen times to try to formulate this, because this kind of thing just makes his life, or whoever the new person, the new Dan is, just so much easier, because now he has real rules, and he doesn't have to go back and say, okay, what exemptions were allowed for this organization, and what variances, and what did they get, and when did they get it, and all of that. So he was very much, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he was very much in favor of this process.
And are there any comments from Gateway about I'm just curious about your interest in this proposal, if you have any?
So as we'll discuss when we come before you, we'll explain what we do, what we have jurisdiction over. We're not into uses, defined uses of properties or land in the Gateway Conservation Zone. I would say that in the past we did submit a letter of support for the Roger Tory Peterson Estuary Center becoming what it is at the site of the former Bates Pavilion. We felt like that was an appropriate use of that property within our purview. Again, we were excited to see something like that coming here. The thing I would say is that it's important to articulate the vision of what you want to have happen in areas and sections of your town. So by defining this and spelling it out, it gives these nonprofits the ability to move forward with what they're trying to build and establish. Yes, you do need to think about defining recreational, and I would encourage you to have noise limiting things, and define light limiting things. We exist to, and it's kind of nebulous how we say that we're here to protect the unique scenic, ecological, scientific, and historic value in the area. What does that mean? And that was defined in the 70s. Ecological in the 70s might mean something different than it does today. So we're all trying to manage growth and use of things, but it would be a shame to hinder these nonprofit educational organizations from being able to define what it is that they can do to continue to support their mission. And I know from the standpoint of the RTPC, it's like, gosh, moms are dropping their kids off for a summer educational camp. Couldn't they buy a cup of coffee or a tea there in the former Dean Thistlein bar? Why can't they? there's a house there on the property that a caretaker has lived in the past. If you're planning on putting in, and you're working with colleges and universities on scientific experiments on water, wouldn't it make sense to provide housing short-term for college interns or adjunct professors, visiting, maybe not adjunct, but visiting professors? Define this so you can create this hub it'll help us sustain and explain to people what they're trying to do with this area.
Great, and it helps, we think, go along as well, you know, so.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice
vacation.
Ferry's leaving, so I know. Thank you. We push it till tomorrow. So. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
If you are interested in hearing about some background about the Gateway Commission, of course, welcome to stay. That's the next item on our agenda. It's mostly for our enlightenment.
We'll read about it now. But thank you for your work. My pleasure. It's very good. Nonprofits especially have to engage the community because that's how we create donors.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you.
Well, this is fun to come to another commission's meeting, and I was intrigued to see how this time agenda of yours work, because we never stay on schedule. Gateway Commission.
We don't
Not even close. I almost came dashing out the front door at 9 o'clock going, oh, I need to be at this meeting.
No, I'm also on the Open Space Commission in town, and we changed our time from a morning to late afternoon. We meet at 5 o'clock, and our meetings tend to run long, so we have a circuit breaker built in because we have another group coming in after we meet for 2 hours, so that makes our conversations more succinct.
We just had this year, this calendar year in particular, an unprecedented number of applications. I mean, I think in the past, a typical meeting might have 2 issues, and we had agendas like today's. So I appreciate your...
If I could ask you, let's do a quick round of introductions, who's who, and then we can, it's my understanding the purpose of this is it's really great that we actually talk to each other and explain what it is we do and what we have jurisdiction over. And I was so glad the Economic Development Commission put on that spring-winter forum on Saturday morning where a couple people from every one of the commissions that had any land or resource use authorization or responsibilities, we all got together.
And that's what prompted this. Because Deanie and I were at that session, and you were, and I said, well, you know, here are 2 commissions that overlap in their land jurisdiction, and I know more than I used to, but really fully know or appreciate what Gateway does, and so anyway. And you can ask us questions, too, if you have any. But.
Sure. So
I'm Russ Todd.
Okay.
I'm a commissioner, and I live on Lime Street, north of the 95.
Okay.
I'm John Miller, along with Deanie, a co-chair, although I think of myself as a vice chair because I think she does most of the work.
I'm Deanie. I don't believe we've met. Nice to meet you. Yeah. I also live on Lime Street.
You live on Lime Street,
okay.
too.
Martha Hanson.
I'm Martha Hanson. I'm the secretary.
And has been, she's the continuity. That's the thing.
Secretary Albert's no statement. Yes, I'm Caroline Wakeman. I'm a commissioner, and I don't live on Lime Street.
I'm Greg Fatoma. I am an alternate to the Gateway for the town. With Suzanne, who's technically my boss, is the chair of the commission. And I'm also chair of Gateway's Communications Committee. And one of the things we're doing now is a program so Mr. Noyes and all of you will know exactly what we do and who we are.
Yes.
And I'm also on open space in town.
Yes, and chief author or puller together
Yeah.
of the open space plan for the
Yeah.
town. Thank you. I'm Suzanne Thompson. I have to say, I am not from here. I am from Kansas. And so I might look at things a little bit differently. We have more cows than people out there, and 105 counties. Much bigger state. I used to work in politics and government on Capitol Hill and large corporations, and the corporate merry-go-round stopped in Old Line, and I feel very fortunate that that's where I got to get off of it and raise my family. So on the commission since Peter Cable and I were appointed to it in the first decade of the 2000s, and then Peter's since moved on to affordable housing, and Greg came on as the alternate.
Deb Zernicki. I live just outside of the district, and I am a alternate member, soon to be a regular member of this commission.
And 2-year terms, is that right?
3-year term.
3 year. Oh, okay. So we're on 2-year term cycles. We just both re-upped. I guess that's set by the town or the entity. So, okay.
Ours are set by the governing structure, governing statutes.
By the statute, okay. Oh, yes, ours is too, if not by our rules of procedure. Maybe it is in the statute. And on the phone, who's on the phone?
Is there someone on the phone?
I don't know if they can hear me.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes?
now. Who
Oh,
is
good.
this,
Hi.
please?
It's good. It's Kate Hewitt from Connecticut Examiner.
Oh, okay.
Reporter. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, given that you've had a long meeting, this is just an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves and explain a little bit of our responsibilities. And I think it would be good going forward, as we get ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary as a state mandated or created organization. You'll hear more from us coming into the next year. But the Connecticut River Gateway Zone was established by statute after each of the 8 towns in the lower Connecticut River agreed through town meetings back in the 70s to go ahead and put together this regional umbrella organization that each of the 8 towns, 4 on each side, would have consistent zoning standards. And we're a bulk density agency, basically. We're trying to protect, as I mentioned, the unique scenic, ecological, scientific, and historic value in the Connecticut River Gateway Zone, which goes up to the first ridge line looking up from the water. So the towns all have their own zoning standards, but then they agree to have comparable, consistent zoning standards within the zone. And it's as much looking across the river at each other and the density, the bulk density in the areas in that zone as it is looking up from the water. But we're not a scientific organization. We don't have any regulatory authority over water quality per se. We have a Connecticut DEEP appointee. The commissioner always has an appointee that serves on the commission. So we have 2 commissioners from each of the towns, a commissioner and an alternate. We have monthly meetings, 11 out of the 12 months of the year. We meet the 4th Thursday of the month. Zoom right now, we've been Zooming ever since COVID hit, and we're looking at going, because we would meet at the River Cog building, which has a quite small conference room. And in respect for our members, most who are of retirement age, we said, we can achieve a lot through our Zoom meetings, and so we're doing the whole FOIA electronic Zoom announcement. We do need to look forward at how we're going to come back in an in-person meeting situation. But we wanted to make sure the more ages could get vaccinated before we got to that point. So I've been elected chairman of the commission. Melvin Woody, who served on it forever, ever since it was established, is the vice chair. Claire Matthews of Essex is the treasurer. Bill Webb of Old Saybrook is the chair of the Rules of Procedure Committee. And then Greg is chairman of the Communications Committee. So we view, and we've historically had support from previously CRERPA, which has been merged with whatever the other regional planning agency was to the north, and now it's all the Lower Connecticut River Councils of Government. So Torrance Downs will be retiring in early October. He's, I think, the third staff person who has provided support, technical support and administrative support to our organization. And so they will be looking to be filling that position. They provide secretarial minutes support, meeting announcements, as well as keeping track of all the documentation that we have for interacting with Torrance, or the staff there primarily works with the ZEOs of the towns. And then the other interesting thing is we, as appointed commissioners for the towns, are really the only appointees in the whole zoning equation. Everyone else is elected to a ZBA or a zoning commission or selectmen. So,
we're also appointed, right?
You're right, and so
We're sort of in zoning.
yeah, you're like us from that standpoint, that we're here to give guidance, but it's really the towns are choosing to continue with implementing standards that they've all agreed to adopt. Yeah.
One of the things I would just add quickly to what Suzanne said, that when the General Assembly created the Gateway Commission, one of the charges was to preserve the traditional and scenic river view. And the traditional view really, I think, coincides with what your commission does. And there are overlays between the Gateway Zone and obviously the Historic District.
Which is why we really are so happy you came in to talk. So when you talk about the river, with the Connecticut River and the estuary, right, is also part of your jurisdiction. So it's not just the Connecticut River, but it's the Lieutenant River.
Exactly, it's the tributaries. And down here, it's more tributaries, and maybe further north of there's a dog leg.
Well, it's interesting that the parameters of the zone are set in state statute.
Yeah, by each of the towns.
Yeah.
They first voted on it, and then the legislature said, okay.
So, for example, excuse me, the banks of the Lieutenant River basically are within the zone. And it's interesting when you were talking about the Arts District. As the zone heads north towards Lyme, the side of 156 that is on the arts side is in the zone, and the other side where the old lineman is not. So there are a lot of interesting borders and boundaries.
So I can pass around, here's printouts of the zone, which we're going to have this cool interactive website that you can go to. We're going to flip the switch, any day, week, month. Now, you know what it's like to update your communications materials in the website.
It'll be nice. You'll be able to plug in an address and see if it's busy or it's not.
Interesting you mention that, because we are ready to flip the switch on a GIS map that shows the district. We had some quirky questions that we actually sought a legal opinion on in terms of our boundaries. The HDC statute has been amended after this HDC was established to require that descriptions be in deeds and boundaries, surveyed description of the historic district, and ours is defined in terms of number of feet back from the road, from the center of Lime Street, in terms that there are different rules applicable for lots that do not extend back 300 feet. And there were a few twists and turns, but we now have it all clarified, and we'll put that up. But the goal is to have a map where one can show the historic houses and click on a house and get the background about the house.
Interesting. So does the River Cog provide you any GIS mapping support?
The boundary right now is being worked with the town Map Geo group.
Okay.
Right.
With Melinda on that, or
Melinda.
Okay. Right. And this was interesting. Over time, we were trying to. We had old maps with, with magic marker drawn on our graphics, yet we clearly had it spelled out in the statute. And as technology has gone leaps and bounds and you can map everything, it's like, we got to figure out how we're able to do this. So you can click on your property and see if you're are you in the gateway zone or not? Or do you have to read that 50-year-old law?
It would be interesting, because I presume each town has its own GIS system. Maybe not.
I would suspect most towns do, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And would your overlay then want to be on each town?
Well, and that's where we turn to the staff at the RiverCog who interacts with
the town.
Right. Yeah. And for the longest time, it was like, we don't know if we're going to have that much control or not. And we want people to go back. We, the Gateway Commission, want people to go back to their zoning staff, their zoning commission, make sure they get the information there. Because then they can turn to us and go, okay, we've got a technical question here. This is how we're interpreting the regs that we all agreed to. So we don't want to be that intermediary, but we help to bring them all together. And as a matter of fact, the towns had all gone through a laborious effort of updating their standards over the past few years. So we're going to slow this down. But we're trying to get the same language in the same section of every town zoning, just so you can find them easier. So that was a logistical cross-referencing nightmare, and that got cleaned up. In addition to that, and those need to be approved by each of the zoning commissions in the town, the towns, and then we'll hold a public hearing saying, yes, all the towns have approved, so now we've updated them. It's like amendments to things. But in addition to that, a new night lighting standard is being advanced by the Gateway Commission, and it's already been shared with the town's draft language. It's very similar, parallel to what Sustainable Connecticut and the authorities on protecting nightlight, to keep nightlights dim, to protect wildlife and the ecology. So we're consistent with them. And frankly, the interesting thing is we deal with the exceptions. People have to come before their ZBA if they're building a house that's over 4,000 square feet. And that's when they start looking to us saying, are you in line with the Gateway standards or not? So smaller houses than that, those are already covered by the town's zoning standards. And for example, a house.
This house up here.
Right next to
that
Sears.
that was something that you.
Not the one down on Lieutenant River, the one right
here.
up here. Yes. That one, as I was sitting here in Town Hall going, wow, there's something going up here in the spring.
Yeah.
So we checked the
In
dam.
the winter, you can see it. It's
yes.
very visible.
And with Torrance, and it was like, that was allowed because the total house was under 4,000 square feet. No special permits or exceptions were needed for that. And I believe they were adding like a mother-in-law suite situation. So they were able to redesign the house, and it didn't trigger anything for us to say, wait a minute, you're going over 35 feet now, or so administratively the zoning staff could handle it.
And what about the house at the end of Academy Lane?
Right. That one we took a look at a few years back. I don't think we realized just how big it was going to be by taking down one thing and putting something else in. And this is where it gets a bit subjective, and I'm worried that we have creep.
The lighting there is quite bright.
So now, if there are questions about lighting, of course, you're in an interim situation without the ZEO, the staff position is open, but still contact Kim and let them know. And this is something that I think a lot of communities are caught off guard with, realizing you have Lyme on the one hand that has taken a strong stance to protect the night skies of Lyme, and Old Lyme hasn't quite done that yet. We're not the rural communities they are.
We do have some, I would consider, fairly strong lighting regulations in the zoning regs.
Okay.
They exist,
Okay.
but they're just not enforced.
Okay. Well, and so this is, I mean, it's not Gateway. I mean,
Right,
it is
yeah,
all over the place.
But it is very interesting.
Yeah, well, I think commissions have to speak up and hold the towns to task on that. So, 'cause all we can do is put these standards into place, but it comes down to the enforcement level.
It really does, so much of it does.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Suzanne, it sounds to me, and I'm generalizing grossly, but that the Gateway is largely concerned with coordinating standards, developing standards, rather than, as this commission does, hearing applications, seeking to...
Right, we will have people come in ahead of time before they take their proposal to their local zoning commission, because they want to know, can we do this or not? Are we interpreting the regs correctly? So we've always offered as a service, if someone wants to come in and run it by us first, we'll give them feedback on it.
Does anyone advise them to do that? I mean, let's just say you're somebody from out of town and you want to build a big, beautiful house on the Lieutenant River, and you don't know about anything.
Well, they have to have an engineer or an architect.
No, I know,
checking,
but will someone in the town land use office suggest that they contact Gateway before developing plans, or is that just...
Ideally, hopefully they will. And we reach out, and that's through our communications. We try, once a year, we try to do a get-together. Usually it's on the Connecticut River on a boat, so you can see what you're looking at with town elected officials, CEOs, architects, realtors, engineers. We've tried it at different times of the year, and we're looking forward to a fall cruise, because you can never get an arborist in the summertime. You wouldn't expect them to be able to get on a boat. But we also could look at holding more workshops for the trades, so they would understand. I mean, that would be welcome.
Also, that Torrance Downs really makes an effort to try to cultivate and maintain a relationship with all the CEOs in the member towns. In the case of Old Line, for example, he used to work with Dan Bray over at Rivercog, and he had a good working relationship with Dan. So that's something that's another primary means of Gateway's reaching out to the towns.
And Deanie, when we did our when we expanded our house into the Duck River, and I believe Ann Brown was the zoning enforcement at the time, we did have to go to Gateway. So we were notified that was just another layer of, getting closer to the river. So
it's so important, because what we're finding is people just going ahead and doing things.
Right.
Just going ahead and doing whatever, and then coming in, and it's just so difficult to work with people. So the more that can be suggested by land use or whoever to come and meet with us for these, avoid problems and all that.
Yeah, well, I heard the gentleman sitting here saying, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Pointing out, no, you're going to pull the trigger. Bad choice of words, but also, here comes the cease and desist then,
Right.
So,
but thank you for doing that, because it's just so important for that lower Connecticut River Valley to be maintained.
Yeah.
Have you ever had occasions where you, on your own, will discover something that questionable, or even not questionable, just not permitted, relating to, noise or light or something in your purview, and what do you do? If so, what
kayaking, you get out on the water, you see things, and we'll call Torrance and go, what about? And oh wait, no, that did not trip any triggers that needed to be suggested, or, oh, you're right, I got to get out there and go. We've heard of people chopping down trees, and he shows up, and by the time he's there,
they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, we work with towns on violations. There was a river town where an owner of a property apparently cleared some land along the rivers for views for people on that property. So we worked with the town on rectifying that. And also, in addition to the towns, Gateway, we also work with deep. Where, for example, there was a conservation easement that basically outlined what could and could not be done on a particular property in Lyme, and the state wanted Gateway's opinion on that, so we met with the homeowner and opined on that, and that helped guide what DEEP was going to do as well.
Right, so if a house is purchased in Lyme, riverfront, are they notified that you're within Gateway jurisdiction for removal of trees, for construction, that type of thing? Like in the village here, like try and get the real estate agents to, discuss that they're in the historic district.
So we historically turned to the towns to do that and to explain that, because it's like, here's our zoning regs, and, for example, in the gateway zone, we have a 100-foot riparian buffer setback versus its 50-foot, pretty much everywhere else.
Right, okay.
So, and this is something we've been wrestling with from the standpoint of, we certainly could maybe get up-to-date records of property owners in the zone, and maybe we should do a one-time mailing to everybody.
We're doing same thing, for different reasons, but.
Yeah, and it's kind of, on the one hand, we want to instill the respect for, you chose to live in here now.
Exactly.
There comes an obligation with that.
Right.
But at the same time, none of our towns have zoning regs that are so specific that you couldn't paint a house a hideous color if you wanted to. I mean, we don't have, maybe
we don't have jurisdiction over color. We have jurisdiction over all sorts of exterior structure things, but not color.
So we're like encouraging people to go with muted shades. You don't need to have this bright white colonial house. You want to blend in with the trees. But we've gotten into discussions about, as a contemporary house, do we like that or not? It's like, wait a minute, none of our regs say anything about style or design. And it's like, well, that's interesting, but we're not a historic commission in any way. And we have some members who've rotated onto the commission who are historians who want to get more involved in that. It's like, but you need to go to the town historic commission.
It's just so different, the Essex side of the river going up to Deep River versus our side. I mean, they're two different. It looks as if two different commissions are administering the two different sides of the river.
Well, part of it also, I would suspect, is that Lyme has a very significant amount of its acreage preserved. I think it's like 50%.
Speaking of across the river, I was reading about a development between the bridges. Are you guys looking at that, or?
It will come before us. It's coming back again. But again, the idea that if areas are zoned to provide housing, and certainly we need to, we've had some interesting. The town of Old Saybrook was just in the process of codifying their regs on accessory housing. And there was somebody who'd come in, and it was a very tight space. And were they going to be grandfathered in if they came in with their proposal 3 weeks before the zoning commission finally decided what they were going to say about affordable housing? And so the people brought the information before us, and they were right on the cusp of footage on acreage kind of situation. Do you round up? Do you round down? It's going to be for their mother-in-law. Yes, you want them to live there, but it was like, wait, they had to go back and rework some design anyway. And we said, pay attention to what's going to be adopted by your town, because just to sneak in ahead of time, you're just going to make it that much harder for everybody else who's going to go, well, the precedent was set.
Right.
And it's like, we're not supposed to, you don't get to count precedent, but we all know we do.
Right.
So it's truly a matter of holding each other accountable, but doing it in a positive way. And, I kind of appreciated the recession for so long, kind of tamped things down. and then all of a sudden we're all excited that housing values have gone up, and it's like,
this is what's causing like 3-hour meetings. Which we are at 3 hours now.
Do we all root for the next recession? Is that
so we're learning a heck of a lot more about zoning than we ever thought. Tim and Bonnie both asked me to serve on this do-nothing commission that just wants to meet month meeting. Peter's alternate, and, we meet all the time, and I'm chair. Thank God Greg moved to town and has taken over the communications, because we really do need to do a better job of explaining. But I wish we were a heritage corridor, or I wish there was a regional entity or organization in this lower Connecticut River Valley that helped us instill this, we love it here, let's not change it too much. I don't know how we do that.
This is we're contemplating doing the same thing, and then we'll let you go. But of doing the same thing, writing a letter to try and sort of encourage residents and owners of properties in the historic district to sort of celebrate the spirit of the place and appreciate what it is, and what are the things that made them want to buy these properties, and what are the things that we're all trying to do together to preserve it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to. It's a little bit of a cheer, sort of a team building experience.
Right.
I
really appreciate what we have.
Yeah.
I know, I keep looking for a contest for landscaping for the best tan house and the most plants between your house and the river. I would give awards, that hasn't materialized.
Well, my 2 cents, I think a mailing would be terrific. I venture the percentage of people in the Gateway area who are really familiar with the Gateway Commission is pretty small. So.
Yes, totally. And we're seen as obstructionists. We add time because they got to come before us for something, or we're going to say, no, you can't do that. 100 feet's 100 feet. Mm-hmm. But then the ZBA, we make the recommendation, the ZBA gets to decide if there's a hardship or not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. This was really
Nice to meet
useful
you,
to us.
Greg.
Woo, all the arcania of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Let's compare GIS maps and websites. And I still need to review the cemetery website before it goes live.
Good.
Maybe
It's live already.
Oh, okay.
It's already live.
Wonderful.
But please review.
Okay, I will. Thank you all very much.
Thanks for coming so much for checking it out.
Okay.
It was interesting that we didn't have to make the decisions.
We have another issue we have to get to today briefly. It's been a while since we've gotten to new and ongoing business, but I'm fearing we may have to postpone formal discussion of those things.
Yeah.
However, the state is meeting on the Griswold Point National Register application very soon, I believe.
Done.
It's done.
It's approved.
They've met and they've approved it.
Oh.
The state has approved it, but we still have to approve it. And if we don't approve it, it gets killed, as I understand it.
Okay, but do we have input into, is it possible to approve it with conditions?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like to speak to that just in the interest of time? Bring
2 minutes.
Russ and
Because
Deb
everybody's
up to date
tired.
Right.
So 2 minutes, I had a conversation for about half an hour with Jen Schofield, who's the head of the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, and she explained to me everything that was happening. I explained to her all my reservations. So what happened is that Martha circulated the Griswold Point National Register nomination application, and I read it quickly, and it seemed to me there were many omissions, and there were multiple errors, factual errors, and so I was concerned about it. We all were concerned about it. So I don't know if we want to actually approve or disapprove today. I think it's a slightly bigger conversation, but what Jen Schofield, or maybe you'd like to just move forward with it, what she would like to have happen is that we approved, I don't think it matters if it's today or not, or next meeting, but that we approve as opposed to decline to approve the appropriateness of Griswold Point becoming registered in this national database because it qualifies, and then she will work later to address the problems in the report. So that's sort of how we left it, with a lot of discussion about what the problems were, and she left me with the responsibility of, as a local historian, of providing them with information that is missing from the report. So if you've had a chance to look at it, you'll see that it's very robust, as Jen says, and that's very true. It's an excellent report in many ways. It's very well written, but there are significant omissions, and while they devote a great deal of time and space and attention to pre-contact Native American history of Griswold Point, which Jen said they required of the report, and which I think is commendable, they devote very much less attention to other aspects of the history, social, economic history of the point, which also need to be included, specifically enslavement, which is a very important part of the history of Griswold Point and is completely omitted from this discussion.
Yeah, I looked through it and saw one reference to enslavement, but I think it was a reference to indigenous people.
It's a footnote to Roger Griswold, the governor, having had a slave. It's important.
Now, I'm a little confused here. Are we being asked to simply support this, or are we being asked to create a new historic district?
No, it's not a historic district. This would be to have that area be put on the national historic
I think
register.
it's a tax advantage for them. It's paid for by the Griswold family, which is
then what is our jurisdiction?
A disadvantage.
So we don't have any jurisdiction over this. This is just, are we in support of?
Yes,
correct. I see. Okay.
And John and I have talked about this, and Carolyn, and it's and certainly I'm speaking for myself right now, but we were in this particular situation, very fortunate, and it's unique in a way that we would have a commissioner in Carolyn Wakeman who is a historian and has so much to add to this, that it would be a shame for us to approve it without acknowledging and requesting maybe that some of her research be included in this.
But if we don't have, I totally support that, but I'm a little confused. If we don't have jurisdiction, but Carolyn just said that it won't get approved unless we approve it.
No, she said it would be kicked back if we disapproved it. If we say nothing, if we ignore the request, it'll go ahead. Presumably it gets approved at the national level, and it goes up with all these errors in it.
I see. Okay, that's different.
We'd rather have it be, if it has our name on it, or in our town of Old Lyme, and the place
we want it to be correct. Right.
Yes, we have someone uniquely able to.
So if we're going to lend our support, which makes sense to me, then we should have it correct per Carolyn's commentary.
Well, the thing is that it becomes, as a historian, I know that I look often at these National Register reports about the Red House in Hague, for example. They become the history of record, and therefore, for it to be mistaken, for example, they have the wrong person building the old house. That's just a mistake. They have people's names wrong, and so it seems to me that it's important, and it's in our interest to have the history of our area be accurate. And just as they went, Ned Pfeiffer consulted with them on the pre-contact history, but nobody consulted with them on the post-contact, the colonial history. So we're asking that be added to the report as well.
What I would suggest is that we vote today to approve it with conditions to reflect, to incorporate missing aspects of the history and to correct certain errors and to suggest additional sources. And unfortunately, Carolyn's already so busy, but the bulk
I've
of the
actually
work
worked
goes
on it
to
all
you.
weekend to try to put some document together for Jen.
I spent an hour and a half with it last night, and even on that quick read, I was saying that's not right.
It's not right.
So I'm happy to. So that would be in effect a delegation. The question is, do we want to see and approve all the conditions after they're written up, or
what are the
delegate?
I mean, what's missing? Are they saying they raised chickens and they did hay? Like, what are the other? What's the other big factors that are incorrect?
Mistakes, because they have relied only on Griswold family history narratives. They haven't checked any of that information, which has been handed down and become sort of legend about who Matthew Griswold I was. He was the richest man in Lyme, and he was the first person to homestead on the east side of the river, and he homesteaded here in the 1640s. All of that is wrong. And it comes from the Griswold family histories, which keep becoming the same source, so it's a sort of an echo chamber. So I think Jen understood that. And, you know, I know that they can't be historians, but they can call in historians just as they call in anthropologists and archaeologists. And so that's what we're asking for them to do.
I mean,
And
we are.
I think also, Deb, there are chunks of important history that actually would add to an understanding of the importance of that area that are missing. I mean, Carolyn mentioned enslavement. I mean, that's of huge interest to historians, and to get a sense of an area where and how enslaved people were used would be important. There's stuff about trade, you know, that
Right, their location on the river.
is mentioned, but it's really not developed.
Carolyn mentioned to me, I know we have to go, but about the judge baptizing 2 of the children of one of his.
The governor, actually, 6 children, yeah.
Yeah. So these are things that are so rich in terms of the history, you know, and to have this go to the Library of Congress as being the final word on Griswold Point and have it be missing seems, just given that we have a source right here.
I'm thinking of the document that established the town historic district, and that's about a 20-page document, the little booklet that we have, and it's fairly in depth. It even talks about the potential second historic district, which is the Sill Lane portion. Even though we're not establishing an historic district, that document is what was basically used to support and send for the National Register of Historic Place designation. Something of that magnitude, I would think, that is, and I'm sure that document is not complete either, but it's what everybody looked at, voted on. The town commission voted on it, not only
When was this?
Right, John?
1970, our historic district study
point.
commission.
That reflected historical knowledge and understanding at that moment. This document does not reflect historical understanding at this moment. So
right. And what's important about that is that even today, as we're trying to define the boundary, the attorney said we have to go back to that 1970 map. So to your point, it establishes what the town then, it codifies or establishes what the town references as the historic truth, if you will.
Yes.
Envisioned in 1970. Right?
So, what do we do with this? Do we?
I haven't seen this document. I haven't seen
It was circulated.
Oh, the document. Oh, you haven't seen the.
Martha circulated it.
Did you circulate?
I don't think I saw anything either.
It's 98 pages.
It's very.
Okay.
But you can read it online.
Did we get that too? Was it in?
Yeah.
Oh.
We got it.
But it was early in the
I got
month.
it.
I mean, late last month.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
But it's a massive thing.
Maybe we should wait. If it doesn't matter, whose sense is it that it doesn't?
Well, I don't know. Don't
wait until September.
I just know
Yes.
I'd like to read it.
Yeah. I would like to too.
September.
Right. I think we hold on that.
Do you have a hard copy?
I mean, if you talked to her,
Yeah, that'd be great. It's much easier to read there than on the computer.
If you talk to her, why don't
I know,
you suggest that the consensus was that we are supportive and approve it in principle, but we very much want the people on the commission
Well, this looks
very
pretty thorough. I mean,
much interested in having a fully accurate historical picture. Okay.
Sure. She's away on vacation, so I've sent her 3 emails this week and she's not answered them.
So let's,
We're at the time of year where.
on the minutes, we'll just reflect a consensus and no vote at this point.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that we look at who approved the 1970 document, the commissions, and that we follow that process. I know there was a committee report, which is what this is. Then there was the historic district commission, I guess. There wasn't a commission at that time because it hadn't been formed. So I guess the town selectman's office, the selectmen approved it, but then there's several.
There was a townwide vote.
And a townwide vote.
There was a townwide vote creating it.
It seems to me a different process. This
between this and that.
This contains information that is called for under.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
This is just a nationally registered.
This is the application form.
Right.
It's like Sound View.
Yes.
We did that.
What I'm getting at is we don't take it as far as what was needed to establish the district, but we try to follow what's been done before as close as we can, short of to meet what's needed for the National Register of Historic Places. Because, in other words, we submitted that in 1970. This submission should, and any other submission that the Historic District Commission
has its name on, should be just as rigorous and have a similar level of approval. That's all. Yeah. I think we all agree on that. That's where we're.
Well, a similar level of approval, if you're taking it to the Board of Selectmen, that would be unusual for a National Historic Register.
That's not what they're doing.
All they want us to say is, yes, we agree that it qualifies for the National Register of Historic Places, that we think it's worthy. That's all they want from us, and we want them to do something a little bit more than that.
We agree with that. We approve it as being a National Historic registered property, but since they've asked us, we'd like to. Yeah.
And we have no jurisdiction over that property then.
Correct.
Right.
So perhaps we can do what Joan recommended a few minutes ago, which is we can go ahead and approve it with comments or conditions, or however you want to express that. Or, what are our options? That we could take that action today and then I'll put together circulate them to all of you if you're interested. And I'm trying to decide how detailed to be for Jen, because it's very hard to put together the history of the Griswold family without specifics. It's very hard to overview it because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Not surprisingly, it's been a long time, but so we could do that, or we could defer it and discuss it a little bit more and look at the changes or the comments or conditions, however we want to describe it, and then approve it, right? Would that be the choices?
Well, yeah, that's the choice, and the question is if we approve it now with conditions, whether we as a commission, it seems to me we should have some vehicle for looking at the conditions, but which you presumably are drafting, and I'm happy to look at it.
I would like that.
But I'm not going to have. I'm going to have far less substantive knowledge than you about what's wrong or what's missing.
Did you?
I mean, six of one. I just don't. I don't know how fast the federal process moves. I don't know.
I think it takes years, doesn't it? It doesn't move fast.
Okay. Then we have
If we have time, it'd be good if we all read it. You make your recommendations that you circulate.
Just came.
And then at the next meeting, we vote.
And then you can report if you have a conversation.
I agree, because I'd like to read it. I'm sorry.
Consensus, we'll be voting and adopting a statement of suggested needed revisions.
It's like signing something.
I know. I'm like, wow, I'd like to read it. I'm very interested.
Can we? Yeah, but there's no deadline on when that's due.
No.
Okay.
And I think, if we say we support it being on the national register, but we want to have the errors corrected, certain things that were omitted, added, we just want to make sure that it's an accurate record.
That's right.
According to what we know now.
Right, because right now it is inaccurate in the number, for
I mean, it's
spend.
fascinating I didn't read the whole thing, but I skimmed it, and I was like, oh my God.
What did you think? Oh, did you have any response to its accuracy?
No.
If I was signing a legal document and my attorney said there's inaccuracies in here, I would not sign it. And Carolyn's representing the knowledge base for this, so I trust that.
I actually emailed Ned Pfeiffer twice because I wanted to know if he'd read it and if he was satisfied with the American history, which is a long section, and I'm not qualified to judge that. I'm leaving that completely alone, but he's in Newfoundland and he won't answer me. So.
Oh, that'd be great to have his.
But I think that's another reason from my point of view, to wait to see what does Ned think, because he was interviewed and his name is in it. So is he satisfied with his part? I don't know. I have no idea.
And I guess one other thought, and just a question here, is does the public review this? In other words,
it becomes, they don't review it.
Or have the ability, should the Historic District Commission provide an opportunity for the public to read this and provide any input or clarification?
I don't
think that's our place.
We don't have any right to do that.
I don't think so.
Okay.
In fact, we were specifically requested not to circulate it
Because there might be
outside.
information in there that the Griswold family would not want distributed to the public.
They didn't want it
Okay. But she said that they were not allowed to redact Native American material and they would not be allowed to redact enslavement information. They couldn't, hide that from the public. But what they did is just omit it instead of writing.
Well, you understand,
right?
Interesting. No.
Okay. Are we content to save item 14 for ongoing business?
Yes, let's save it.
What's the date of our next meeting?
The only thing
If you don't want it out there, then don't put yourself
to do
on the public.
Get organized. Our stroll.
Oh, yes.
Our stroll.
I don't know about this.
Deanie and I were talking about the stroll.
Having a stroll where we meet, the commissioners meet, and we start at the top of Lime Street, and we go down and we just take our legal pads and we take our cameras and we go and we just talk about.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because Paul Sagristano is correct. There are numerous HVAC and mechanical things that have just slipped in. No one was paying attention. No. So for us, we should really have an inventory, and we should know what we're talking about when we do. So it was John's idea, like a stroll, but we could have the stroll, and if you like, we could come back to my garden, have a lemonade or a glass of wine or something. So we could get this in before, sometime between now and the next meeting.
When would you like to do it?
I'm really not.
Pick a day like yesterday.
We could have a day and a rain day.
An idea on a day is, and I'm thinking not just this year, but in the future, like we make an annual thing, is usually everybody's in town around the Midsummer's festival. Now, people may be so busy with family or whatever, maybe that's not a good idea, but like the Friday morning.
Yeah, there are a lot of other people wandering around during the Midsummer's Festival. It would probably be better for us to go on a quieter time, like a Friday morning. The Friday morning would work. But when there aren't so many people.
For wine, don't we want to do it in the afternoon?
We do.
I don't want to have wine in the morning.
Oh, that's right.
But you really want wine.
Well, I wouldn't mind.
Coffee in the morning.
I'm happy to have coffee in the morning. That would be good.
Deanie, is September meeting September 12th? Is that right?
Yeah.
The 5th. Okay.
So
I was just trying to think of a time where most people will always be in town.
Should we just see if we can, because it's just us really at this point.
But it needs to be advertised as a meeting.
Yeah, so if we, I mean, what makes, is anyone going away? Between anywhere?
I'm much freer after the third week of August, if we could wait that long.
Oh, okay.
But I can do it. I can do it.
So that would be the week of the 22nd of August.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
What day?
It sounds far away to me.
Well, yeah, that's what I'll find time.
You mean before?
We should do it sooner, because if there are letters that need to go out, those could go out, and we should get a response before September.
It would be nice to do it before the end of this month.
Yes, it would. So what about Friday the 22nd or Friday the 29th?
Yeah, both work fine for me.
Is the 29th the, Midsummer Fest, right?
Right.
So maybe the 22nd.
22nd?
How does that work for you, Deb?
That's fine.
We also should pick a date for our meeting/site visit at Paul's.
I have a doctor's appointment at 11 o'clock. 22nd.
Well, we're doing it in the late afternoon. Should we do it at, say...
Oh, afternoon, okay, after the doctor's appointment, that'll be good, yeah.
3?
How long will it
3
take?
o'clock.
2 hours? 3 o'clock on the 22nd?
I think it would probably
3
take
o'clock,
us...
yeah.
What? Did you say?
Yes, it's 3.
Okay, okay.
3 or 3:30, what do you prefer? I'm open, it doesn't matter to me.
3:30?
3:30.
Late afternoon's always
Okay,
nice.
3:30. Especially if it's hot, it's nice to do it later in the day.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And what about a
Okay,
date?
3:30.
What about a date very soon for Paul?
Okay, so we meet just back to the stroll for a minute. Do you want to meet at my house? Meet in my house at 3:30?
Yep.
Sure.
We'll quickly walk up to the
We need
beginning of McCurdy. We can also finally decide on the Lafayette sign, and then we'll go to the place.
Since it is a public meeting, if anyone wants to join us, we could say meet in front of the Congregational Church, and then we just start at that side.
But
Okay.
I have one other thought. If we start at Deanie's and go up, and then we're walking back, so do we want to do the double walk, or do we want to start at the top and then start at the Still Lane Green and then walk down to Deanie's?
It's kind of useful to go on both sides.
Okay,
When
sure.
we did this the last time, we went up one way and came down the other because you'd see the...
Sure.
Right.
Focus more on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, well...
It doesn't matter where we start.
Should we start at the Congregational Church?
Sure.
Sure.
I'm just thinking on the off chance other people do join, they are not all invading your house.
And we'll finally decide on the Lafayette sign, and we'll collectively make that decision on that day. Okay.
Okay,
good.
so the special meeting, we've got to
special
articulate a purpose, is to survey the district and identify, well, just let's say survey the district, but also you need to put in to discuss the precise location of the Lafayette Trail Mark. And then the other,
We already
the
did
other,
that, so be revising it, maybe.
the other is to get a date for
Paul.
looking at Paul's property.
Okay, I can do this anytime.
I'm going to be out of pocket until next Wednesday, a week from. I could do it this coming Wednesday, or then a week from Wednesday.
Shall we try and do it this coming Wednesday?
The 13th?
13th, sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay?
Could we do it early?
Yeah, early would be better.
Yeah.
Because I got people coming to town.
Yeah, great.
What time?
Anytime anyone says.
9 a.m.
9 o'clock.
Okay.
Park right across the street at my house or at his house.
Which means,
9 o'clock.
Martha, you got to get a notice out by,
Yeah.
it's 24 hours, probably this afternoon.
I'll do it before I leave here. Write a little agenda and just, it will be for, it's a special meeting special meeting on site at 21 Lime Street.
To discuss heating
To discuss.
AC units.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
Placement,
Shall I just-
screening.
Placement and
Screening.
street location.
Right,
Sure.
Okay.
I think it's important to be able to look at that angle of.
Right.
See what it-
right.
And then the last thing I would mention, since we are doing little bits of new business, I think we need to be proactive in identifying good new potential alternates for this commission.
I do too, yeah.
People tend not to just write in or send their name in.
We tend to just let it happen, and I think we really would do ourselves a great service by
We
having
would.
input
Definitely.
into this.
So let's all think about that.
And soon.
Yeah.
Very soon. Yeah, I would love to have start September with new folks on board.
Maybe we
As
can-
we know, and alternates often do end up
Yes.
serving, as Ted well knows.
John, how about site visit for 97 Lime Street? Are you are just doing that?
No, I just did Paul. You
I
mean
think-
Todd Brink?
I think we have to leave it to him, because we did approve the fence that looked like the original
No.
fence.
No, 97.
is
97.
by Russ.
The barn.
The barn.
And the drive, the driveway.
Sorry, the one by the
He's
high
just gone off.
Yeah.
Fence.
Yeah, it sounds like they have like a property management building or property management business or something.
It sounds like Eric Torriello wants to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully he will show us some fence designs that will be good.
Okay, are we ready to adjourn?
Yes.
Officially?
I'll make a motion
Russ
to
moves
adjourn.
to adjourn.
So moved.
Deanie seconds. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
No opposed? Thanks to everybody.
I just want to say,
Wait, I want to, just since we're signing off, how do you sign off on the phone? Anyone still on the phone? End call.